This is every reason why Kaiba's deck makes no sense.
Yugi has always been known to be the better duelist than Kaiba, even if Kaiba had the better cards. To put it nicely, Kaiba has always had an inferiority complex over his dueling skills compared to Yugi.
Yugi gave his Duel Monsters Championship crown to some nobody?
But despite that,
Wait, he did? I thought he just gave him the prize money.
a lot of Kaiba's cards are actually pretty powerful. Blue Eyes was stronger than Dark Magician, Kaiba had more broken spells, and to top off, his monsters were all pretty strong beaters. And if we take a look at his actual deck, it's pretty infamously known to spawn some of Yu-Gi-Oh's most powerful and broken spells and traps. So much so, that even their real-life TCG equivalents had to be banned or limited. To a casual viewer, there's an idea that Kaiba's deck is really powerful. After all, as 3 copies of Blue Eyes, why wouldn't it be the best? But despite Kaiba's borderline game-breaking spells and traps, the remaining cards in his deck are iffy to say the least. From his 3 Blue Eyes, to his Xyz monsters, to even Obelisk the Tormentor, we'll be taking a deep dive into every deck Kaiba has used to see what went wrong with his decks. One thing I'd like to point out about Duelist Kingdom before we get into the analysis is that it actually has different rules than the more traditional card game we all know and love. I'll give an abridged version, as there's literally an entire Wikipedia page dedicated to this, but each player has 2,000.
But yeah, basically someone said Duelist Kingdom is actually D&D rules and not really TCG rules.
Life points. You could only attack with 1 monster, no direct attacks, and you could summon 1 monster per turn without tributes. Oh, and if an effect sounded cool enough and made sense with the cards, you could just make up one on the spot. Starting off with...
Wait, actually you couldn't attack their life points directly? I forgot about that detail. Then what? How do you even fight over 3,000 attack Blue Eyes? What?
Kaiba's Duelist Kingdom deck, it's one of his lesser known builds, as it forgoes some of his more iconic cards. Of course, as Duelist Kingdom was in the earlier period of Yu-Gi-Oh!, you'll notice that most of the deck is full of normal monsters. Another key pattern across a lot of Kaiba's decks is that a lot of his monsters are really strong beaters, especially if you compare it to his competition. A lot of monsters have a considerable amount of attack, and when the lowest attack point normal monster in the deck is one with 1200 attack, you're doing pretty well. Rude Kaiser and Judge Man are pretty strong beaters, boasting 1800 attack and 2200 attack respectively.
How does he get them summoned? 5, level 5, 1800.
And Aquamador and Gyakuteno Megami also are really good walls with both.
Oh dang. Okay. But you'd have to like tribute summon them, no?
Having 2000 defense. Now this might seem pretty underwhelming, especially if you look at modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Where stat points.
Yeah, Kopsiyami! Shout out to Kopsiyami! My boy! My baby! Oh my god! This guy knows peak! This guy knows peak! Shout out to my baby! Konami Unlimited right now. Konami, give me my Kopsiyami back! How dare you? How dare you? 0 attack, but he quickly becomes, 2,500 attack with all his friends! Power of Friendship deck! Put all the yummies on the field! And let him do war crimes! Let my son do war crimes! Free him! Free him! Okay.
Points are more of an afterthought, but monsters having any stat over 2000 was pretty powerful. Very few monsters in this period had over 2000 attack without some sort of stat boost, so even an Aquamador in defense position would leave your opponent with a hard time. Now there is a monster with pretty low attack, that being Sagi the Dark Clown with only 600 attack, and it was only used for one thing, but we'll get onto that later. Of course, we couldn't talk about Kaiba's deck without talking about Kaiba's Ace, probably one of Yu-Gi-Oh's most iconic monsters, Blue Eyes White Dragon. Shouldn't be too hard to see why this card is by far the most powerful, if not the most powerful monster in the game at that point.
Blue Eyes better than Red Eyes. Blue Eyes better than Red Eyes. And you can still play a Blue Eyes deck. It's not the best, but it's still good. It's still better than the other decks.
Again, to reiterate, levels were basically
Synchro Summon Floorhead
back then, so dropping a monster of 3000 attack with literally no cost was genuinely broken. And you know what's even more insane? Kaiba had 3 of them. There was no other normal summonable monster that came close, with the only competition being Dark Magician with 500 less attack. Sure, and there were definitely more powerful monsters like Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth with 3500 attack or Gate Guardian with 3750 attack. But these monsters required insane setup to pull off, and with Blue Eyes you could just summon it cost free at any point. To get an idea of how
What do you mean cost free at any point? Okay, I guess they didn't have tribute summoning back then.
powerful this card is,
just
in the anime your average player's best monster would have at most 1900 attack, and maybe if you're lucky you'd have a monster in the 2000s. So
that's because they're not rich enough to get better cards, and there's only like 1 or 2, 3 cards in the entire world, so Kaiba just hoarded them.
A deck with 5 monsters over 2000 attack, borderline broken. Another boost to this card's power was the format, as life points were 2000, and with the majority of monsters being around the low thousands or less, Blue Eyes was quite literally a one monster OTK machine all on its own. Even if we ignore the spells and traps with just Blue Eyes White Dragon, Kaiba should have dominated Duelist Kingdom if it wasn't for the heart of the cards. Moving on to the fact monsters, we again have a pretty phenomenal lineup here. One thing to note about the fact monsters, with the exception of Sword Stalker, is that technically they weren't seen in Duelist Kingdom, but were seen in Kaiba's duel against the Duel Machine in Battle City. Within this duel, the Duel Machine used Kaiba's exact deck from Battle City, which meant that any cards it used in this duel was confirmed to also be in Kaiba's deck in Duelist Kingdom. So any cards like Cyberjar, Wall of Illusion, or Lord of D would be in his Duelist Kingdom deck, despite never making an appearance there. Cyberjar is a level 3 dark flip monster. Once it's flipped up, destroy all monsters on the field. Then both players reveal the top 5 cards from their decks. Then special summon all revealed level 4 lower monsters in face up attack position or face down defense position. Also add any remaining cards to their hand. Cyberjar is another incredibly powerful card, as whilst the level 4 and below monsters in this deck aren't exactly that powerful, what is important is that it lets you search for your deck more. This is pretty crucial, as more often than not, this deck will have stronger monsters, spells or traps than your opponent, so a draw for you is way more valuable than a draw for your opponent when you're running 3 Blue Eyes or a Judge Man. A unique aspect of Duelist Kingdom was that any monsters destroyed by card effect would cause the player to lose half the monster's attack. So even if your opponent managed to build up a board full of multiple monsters, if they had a field of monsters with combined attack of even 4,000 attack,
so
then them attacking this card would be an instant loss. Lord of D is a level 4 dark spellcaster with 1200 attack and 1100 defense, and has the effect that dragon type monsters on the field cannot be targeted by card effects. Lord of D is an okay card. Its attack is pretty mediocre, which is bad when its effect is contingent on being on the field. Kaiba also only runs 3 dragons in this deck, so Lord of D's effect doesn't really work most of the time. It's a nice plus though to make your Blue Eyes White Dragon practically invulnerable to almost everything in Duelist Kingdom, with Blue Eyes and Lord of D. The fact that it has an effect though still does make it better than literally almost every normal monster with a similar amount of attack, so its place in the deck still isn't the worst. Trapmaster is a level 3 Earth Flip monster with 500 attack and 1100 defense. Trapmaster, on being flip summoned, lets you select one trap card on the field and destroy it. If the selected card is set, pick up the card and see it. If it's a trap card, it's destroyed. If it's a spell card, return to its original position. Trap Jammer is also fine. It's a pretty slow form of trap destruction, but it was worthwhile for what the game was at the time. There weren't many ways to remove spells or traps, so even destroying a trap on flip was somewhat worthwhile. Wall of Illusion is a level 4 Dark Fiend with 1000 attack and 1850 defense, where if it's attacked by a monster, after damage calculation return that monster to the hand. Wall of Illusion would be a pretty good card in any other format than Duelist Kingdom. Returning a monster to the hand is functionally useless with these rules, as most monsters could just be summoned without tribute.
Unfortunate! Yeah, well, if it was special summon, that'd be better.
To this, such as Black Cluster Soldier or Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth, which required a bit of sap to get out, and returning back to the hand would have meant an opponent would have had to reuse the tributes for them. But these cards were extremely rare, so the chances of seeing this card's effect be useful was slim. Even in the cases where you gain tempo by your opponent sending a monster back to their hand, it's not like it matters, as again, for Duelist Kingdom rules you can attack directly. So even if they had a weak monster who attacked Wall of Illusion, you'd rather it stay on the field. The final effect monster in this deck is Sword Stalker, a level 6 Dark Warrior monster, where a fourth of the attack of one monster in your grave is added to this card's attack. The reason for this card having a weird effect is because in Duelist Kingdom, monster effects were written weirdly, and in general a lot of rules were very hand wavy. So in this arc, it was just a normal monster, but it functioned as an effect monster. But even with this effect, it was portrayed weirdly. A Sword Stalker gained a quarter of its own attack, rather than a monster in a grave, and in later appearances went back to just being a normal monster with no effect. Overall, this card is pretty weird, contradicts itself, but at the very least, it's an easy 2k beater in Duelist Kingdom, which still makes it one of the best monsters in Kaiba's deck. Moving on to the 2 known fusions, we have Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, a level 12, that's a fusion of 3 Blue Eyes with 4500 attack and 3800 defense, boasting the highest stats in Duelist Kingdom, with it even being close to the highest attack in the entire anime. This card is genuine overkill for a format like Duelist Kingdom. There's also a whole nother can of worms when it comes to the Duelist Kingdom rules of this card, with how each one of its head is a different monster, so we'll just leave that for the time being. It can...
It does what? I forgot about this nonsense. You have to cut each head off specifically? That is truly D&D rules.
And also one turn kill your opponent even if they use a card like Dark Magician, which itself was also an extremely rare card. Unfortunately, that's all this monster really is. Overkill. The card economy for this card is atrocious, by going -3 for a monster that is admittedly very powerful. But
That's true. 3 beaters for 3,000 is so much better than 1 beater for 4,500.
ultimately just a beefed up version of normal Blue Eyes.
Because you would only want that if you need a clear 4,000, but who has 4,000?
And in most cases, a single Blue Eyes gets the job done. There's virtually no chance of this card being destroyed unless your opponent makes up new rules on the spot. But worst comes to worst, you can just threaten to jump off a cliff. Rapid Horseman is a level 6 Earth.
That's what I do. Every single duel, I'm just like, are you serious? Are you comboing for 5 minutes right now? I'm going to go to that cliff right there.
Fusion Beast Warrior monster with
Or
2000
plain
attack
Minesweeper.
and 1700 defense. And that's a fusion of Battle Ox and Mystic Horseman. For similar reasons to Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, it's also kind of a useless card when you compare it to its 2 fusion materials. Sure, it does have 300 more attack than Battle Ox, but considering you're essentially going -2 for a stat boost of 300 attack, when there are other monsters in the deck that already have 2000 or more attack without needing 2 other cards, makes this card seem kind of useless. Moving on to the magic and trap cards of the deck, we'll start with our first spell, being D-Spell, which rather simply lets you destroy 1 spell card on the field. It's a pretty good generic staple card. Any sort of spell or trap destruction is always nice, especially as it can take out equipped cards that can cause your opponent's cards to become threats towards your Blue Eyes. Fluid of Summoning Dragon is a normal spell which lets every player special summon up to 2 dragon type monsters from their respective hands. This card is pretty bad in Duelist Kingdom. The deck only has 3 dragons, and there's no advantage to running this card, when you could just simply normal summon them, and as the rules don't let you attack with more than 1 monster per turn, there's no real advantage to this card. Negative Energy Generator is a normal spell which lets you triple the attack of 1 face-up dark monster you control. This spell is generally one of the most broken spells in the entirety of Yu-Gi-Oh!, tripling the attack of most monsters. Even if you were to use it on a monster with 1000 attack points, it would make it one of the best monsters to be used in a duel. There's also a fair number of dark monsters in the deck, and if it's used on a card like Swordstalker, it's basically game over for the opponent. Monster Reborn is another broken spell which lets you special summon any monster from either player's grave. I've already talked about this card in my Yu-Gi video, but another factor about this card is that it's just better in this deck, as in the off chance that your opponent manages to run over Blue Eyes, you can just reborn it with this card, so you can essentially play 4 copies of Blue Eyes instead of just 3. Polymerization is a normal spell which lets you send monsters from your hand or field to the grave to summon a fusion monster. Polymerization worked differently in Duelist Kingdom, as it would let you fuse any 2 cards of your choice. Basically, what it means is that unlike the normal card game, you aren't restricted to specific fusion material. It can be any 2 cards and a polymerization to form a fusion summon. Another component of this card is that not every fusion results in good fusions, and you can even use your opponent's monsters for fusions. Again, similar to
Super
D&D
Poly!
rules, this card is kind of hard to evaluate because it's literally just a anything kind of goes card, but regardless, it's still a pretty good utility. Now for the traps, we have Ancient Lamp, which reflects all attacks. This isn't really that clear of an effect, but based on Kaiba's use, it appears to cause the opponent's monster to instead attack one of their own monsters, which if true, makes this a devastating card. It can cause your opponent to cause a self-kill by forcing them to attack one of their own monsters, or even take out a problematic monster. Defense Paralysis can be activated when an opponent's monster is changed to defense position. Change all monsters your opponent controls to attack position. This is another weird Duelist Kingdom card, as it has the art from Stop Defense, but is a continuous trap, and if you take it as it is, it's not a totally useless card, especially with the Blue Eyes on board, and if your opponent tries to go on the defense, this card can even win you the game. Crush Card Virus, which is a normal trap which you can activate when a monster of 1500 or less attack is destroyed from your side of the field. You take no battle damage from this battle. Then destroy all monsters with 1500 or more attack from your opponent's side of the field. Hand and all remaining cards they draw for the remainder of the duel. While this card is in your grave, your opponent cannot special summon those monsters from the grave. Needless to say, this is by far one of the most powerful cards in the entirety of Duelist Kingdom. Any sort of destruction effect would be borderline broken, but a card that destroys any monster with over 1500 attack that is applied to the rest of the duel, there generally would be no way to win, or have any outs for a player after this effect gets applied. How exactly are you going to win a game when your best monster has 1500 attack? And it's pretty obvious that the writers also came to this conclusion, because of 7 times it's used in the anime, it's been prevented from being activated a total of 4 times. Mainly because the writers would have to pull some serious anime shenanigans for the duel to remain balanced after this. Now,
okay, I see. They're like, actually if he plays this, he just wins. So maybe we don't let him play it.
Sure, there's a couple of ways that duelists have attempted to get past the card's resolution. Joey's best plan against Kaiba was to use Monster Reborn to summon his own blue eyes against him, which doesn't really work when an opponent has 2 more of the same card. Yugi manages to beat Crush Card Virus just based on pure plot armor with multiplying Karibo, and Ishizu manages to get past this card with another similarly broken card that swaps her grave with her deck, so when a majority of its appearances are negated, you kinda have to know how broken this card is. Ironically enough though, it's even more broken in Duelist Kingdom, as it didn't just send monsters from your deck to the grave, they're infected, which meant that you could still draw them, but functionally you couldn't do anything with them, so you could even end up drawing dead cards. The only real caveat with this card is that ironically Kaiba's wealth and ability to get broken cards works against him, as the only card that works with Crush Card Virus is Sagi, so it's pretty prone to bricking, but still is a beast of a card regardless. Kaiba's deck in Duelist Kingdom was actually quite overpowered for the time, despite its weaker power level. Sure, it had a couple stinkers like Grappler, but if you compare it to other duelists in this arc, and the amount of beaters Kaiba has in his deck, Kaiba realistically should have won every game.
He did have the best ones. Finn was like the best card.
Not many decks have out to free blue eyes, let alone
actually
the
had
Blue
to
Eyes
tribute.
Ultimate Dragon. And it also has by far the most broken card in this arc with Crush Card Virus, where in the case it managed to go off, that also should be an auto win, even if they manage to take out Blue Eyes White Dragon. So far, it seems that Duelist Kingdom sets a good precedent for Kaiba's decks, but does Battle City carry this trend? If you've enjoyed the series, make sure to subscribe. I'm still a pretty small channel, so when you subscribe, it lets YouTube know that you want to see more of my videos.
Oh, by the way, last time I asked for a like and subscribe, it didn't work.
This is the kind of content that you want to watch. In
Come to think of it, it's not showing me.
Shakes up considerably.
Like, I don't know why, but last time the video I watched when they asked to like and subscribe, the subscribe button lit up.
As the rules are a lot more concrete and well defined. It's a lot closer to the game we all know and love, and any wins a character makes is less of an ass pull, even if it does still happen occasionally. For starters, the biggest change has to be the fact that level 5 or higher monsters need to be tribute summoned with at least 1 tribute, level 7 or higher monsters need at least 2 tributes, and level 10 or higher monsters need 3 tributes. This greatly impacts Kaiba's deck, as before even if many of his monsters were powerful beaters, they are carried by the fact that they didn't require tributes. This means that any cards like Rude Kaiser are considerably much worse, given that other level 4s exist with comparable or better stats. It also means that Kaiba just can't spam out Blue Eyes for free, so if Kaiba was still running his Duelist Kingdom deck, the presence of too many high level tribute monsters would be a hit against the deck in Battle City. It also thankfully means that I don't have to guess what card does, or that I have to worry about unclear wording of certain card effects, so there won't be any guesswork into what exactly polymerization does in Battle City. First off, generally looking at the monsters, and there's still a considerable number of normal monsters, even with it being a newer format.
You still
Kaiba's
played
deck
with all
really
these?
packs a punch, probably more so
tributes?
than Duelist
Really?
Kingdom. The average attack of the normal summonable monsters in Kaiba's deck is around 1700, which is pretty absurd, especially if you compare it to a deck like Joey's where he needs to run 3 level 5 normal monsters to reach cards with the 1800 attack mark. Really puts into perspective how busted Kaiba's main deck is. Battle Ox, Genie of the Lamp, X-Head Cannon, Force Raider are all really solid powerful beat sticks to use until you're able to summon the more powerful higher tribute monsters. Even the weakest monsters, barring the exception of Sagi, have 1600 attack, which is still a solid baseline of attack for Battle City. Of course, we still have Blue Eyes in the deck, but this time it requires you to tribute 2 monsters, instead of Duelist Kingdom allow you to summon it for free. Even with the 2 tribute requirement, Blue Eyes is still an extremely powerful monster.
He needs all the Blue Eyes setup cards. It's better not to draw it than he's a brick, Mr. Brick Eyes. But then he needs some of the he needs like the. Do they have Mausoleum back then? Did they have Mausoleum back then? I don't know. But there's like what else is there? There's like isn't there like a lot of like little guys that get dragons into the graveyard or draw dragons? There's like spell traps that get dragons back then. I'm just trying to remember how much of the structure deck is like old versus like how much is new support. Isn't Sage pretty old? Couldn't they have had Sage? This is Battle City now, so he actually does have the tribute.
2 tribute monsters in this arc, like Dark Magician or Red Eyes, it still leads the pack by a solid margin, and summoning it onto the field is still an extremely powerful move. There will be cases where you won't want to have more than 1 copy in your hand, and runs the risk of you bricking very often, but when it's Blue Eyes, you don't really have a choice not to run 3 of them. Moving on,
I run 2 of them, but okay.
To effect monsters, this time being much more plentiful, the monster lineup is still surprisingly stellar. Starting off with Blade Knight, a level 4 light warrior monster with 1600 attack and 1000 defense, which has the effect, if you have one or less cards in your hand, increase the attack of this card on the field by 400 points. And if this card is the only monster on your side of the field, negate the effects of flip effect monsters destroyed by this card as a result of battle. Blade Knight is still a solid card. While its attack is definitely on the lower end compared to Kaiba's other normal summonable monsters, its attack boost effect can be handy. In some cases, it also has a weird anti-flip effect, which to my knowledge was never used in the anime, probably due to its oddly niche weird requirements. All around, just an oddly specific card. Kaiser Glider is a level 6 Dragonlight monster with 2400 attack and 2200 defense, where it cannot be destroyed by a battle with a monster that has the same attack. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, return one monster on the field to its owner's hand. Kaiser Glider is another phenomenal card in the deck.
Dang, it has a bounce.
It's a level 6 2400 beater, which funnily enough just makes it better than Red Eyes, which is Joey's ace, but yeah, it's just another card for Kaiba. Even ignoring the level difference, it still has better overall stats with 2200 defense, which objectively just makes it better than Red Eyes. It also has a pretty powerful effect too. Unfortunately though, its first effect isn't really that impressive and too conditional to work, other than being the best way to run over Red Eyes with, but the second is extremely powerful, as it becomes extremely problematic to deal with if the opponent ever summons out a powerful boss monster to deal with it. Kaiser Seahorse is a level 4 light...
Oh, he does have Kaiser Seahorse. Okay, Kaiser Seahorse is like one of the ways to get blue eyes, no? Can be treated as 2 tributes as a tribute summon of a light monster.
Sea Serpent with 1700 attack and 1650 defense, which lets you treat it as 2 tributes for any tribute summon of a light monster. So not only is this monster a powerful beater, it also lets you easily summon out one of the most powerful monsters in this deck. Do I need to say more? This next card, being Masked Beast Asgardius, technically wasn't really part of Kaiba's deck, other than being used solely for the 4-way duel. So we won't be going in depth about this card's usefulness, as for this duel the turn order was determined by removing the monster with the highest attack from their deck. Kaiba won this card in an anti-duel, and couldn't even use it with his deck, so with its incredibly high attack of 3300 and not being able to use it in a duel, it was a smart way to guarantee his position. Sword Soul is a level 4 light fairy monster.
Sword of Soul? Sword Soul mentioned? It's a fairy? How is a sword a fairy?
With 0 attack and 1900 defense, where when it is destroyed and sent to the grave, one face-up monster you can draw gains 1000 attack until the end phase.
Oh, it's like a... okay.
This is a pretty boring card, all things considered.
That is a pretty boring card.
Its effect is incredibly situational, but can serve as somewhat a good wall.
Until
Thunder
the end phase?
Dragon is a level 5 light thunder monster with 1600 attack and 1500 defense. Lets you discard this card from your hand to the grave, add up to 2 more Thunder Dragons from your
what Thunder Dragons? I only know the only Thunder Dragons I know are like the Kaijus.
deck to your hand, and then shuffle your deck. You can only use this effect during your main phase. Now, this card on its surface is horrendously bad. It's a 1 tribute monster for stats not worse than even the weakest of monsters in the deck, and its effect allows you to discard itself to add 2 more copies. Well, there's a bit more than that. Thunder Dragon is also what's
it's like
known
Thunder
as
Dragon
a deck
specifically,
spinner, as
I
drawing 1
see.
copy of it means that you can thin down your deck by 2 cards, allowing your deck to be more consistent and allow you to draw the actual powerful cards. It can also be used as discard fodder, but Kaiba's deck doesn't have too many of these. It doesn't quite have its real life meta use due to the lack of chaos monsters in the deck, but there's an aspect that makes this card better than it appears on the surface, as it actually has a fusion, twin-headed Thunder Dragon. This card rather simply is just a fusion of 2 Thunder Dragons with stats of 2800 attack and 2100 defense. Thunder Dragon's effect means that all you need to do is 1 polymerization and a single Thunder Dragon to create a 2-card combo.
Okay,
so
yeah,
when you have
that's
3 Thunder
easier.
Dragons in the deck, makes this combo somewhat consistent in comparison to other fusion monsters. Does it justify the inclusion of these cards in the deck? 2 card combo for a 2800 beat stick isn't anything to laugh at, but needing to run 3 functionally dead cards in the deck for it makes it mediocre at best and breaks a lot of hands at worst. Before we get onto the card you've all been waiting for, we'll cover a new set of cards Kaiba runs in this arc, the Union monsters. These are Y Dragon Head, Z Metal Tank, and X Head Cannon. There are
Oh yeah, the XYZ before XZs became a thing.
all level 4 light machine monsters, where X Head Cannon has 1800 attack and 1500 defense, Y Dragon Head has 1500 attack and 1600 defense, and Z Metal Tank has 1500 attack and 1300 defense. Y Dragon Head lets you equip itself to any X Head Cannon as an equip card to let it gain 400 attack and defense points. And if that monster would be destroyed by battle, then you can destroy Y Dragon Head. Z Metal Tank can also equip itself to X Head Cannon and Y Dragon Head, and boosts the attack and defense defense of the card by 600 points. Similarly, if the equipped monster is destroyed by battle, you can destroy Z Metal Tank instead, and both allow you to unequip itself to special summon itself. So these kind of cards are all just alright. They have decent stats, with X-Head Cannon being a good beater, but their actual effects themselves are kind of underwhelming. Sure, turning X-Head Cannon into a 2400 beater is pretty formidable, but that's a 2-card combo of 2 specific 1-ofs in the deck. For the most part, they're basically just vanillas, or occasionally become a 2-card combo for a 2k plus beater that has battle protection. White Dragon Head also has a pretty arbitrary restriction of not letting you equip it to Z Metal Tank, which is presumably due to its letter ordering, but still feels unnecessary. The more interesting aspect of these cards is that they're also part of the very first Contact Fusions in Yu-Gi-Oh! With XY Dragon Cannon and XYZ Dragon Cannon. Now, in the anime, these cards can get slightly confusing, as XY Dragon Cannon isn't really a fusion, technically speaking. It was just Y Dragon Head attached to X Head Cannon, but functionally it was the exact same. They just decided to represent a card as a fusion monster in a
Oh, it says you do not use polymerization.
dub. It didn't have any special effect, that we know of at least, and despite the real life card game giving all 3 combinations of the cards in effect, the anime really bothered to show XY Dragon Cannon's combination, so we'll talk about the first actual Ixies fusion we have, XYZ Dragon Cannon, which is a level 8 light fusion monster with 2800 attack and 2600 defense. It's summoned by removing from play the 3 previously mentioned monsters, and its effect allows you to discard 1 card to destroy 1 card your opponent controls. Now, this is a pretty insane fusion, probably one of Kaiba's best. It has the same stats if you're to add on the Z Metal Tank and Y Dragon Head to X Head Cannon normally, but its destruction effect is close to broken, considering how monster destruction was an extremely rare effect to have, and
This is just upon special summoning, right? Cannot be special summoned from the graveyard, too. Discard 1 card, target a card your opponent controls, destroy.
cards that destroyed cards directly were banned, unless you happen to own a tournament being run, so you let cards like Crush Card Fires through, but I digress. It's important to note that it's not once per turn, so you could go for an extremely easy board wipe, and with literally any other monster in the deck, you—
Wait, it's not once per turn? What? Okay, but like... Oh my god, is it the ancient wording of the card? It says must first be special summoned, and then you can discard 1 card. If it said something like once per turn or whatever, but it's just whenever you want to, you can discard. It also doesn't say quick effect. Is it not a quick effect? Can you do it whenever? Can you do it on your opponent's turn? I don't get it. Only new Yu-Gi-Oh! Does once per turn? Yeah, but like... It doesn't specify when you can do it. Is it a quick effect? They didn't have quick effects back then either? How does it work? How does it work at all? I don't know. 3 per turn for use in the anime. 3 times a turn? That's insane. Is it just limited by how many cards you have in your hand? Yeah, what do they do to fix it? It's kind of broken. A little broken. There's Contact Fusion before Neos. What does Contact Fusion mean? Like, you just have the cards in hand and banish them? And that's it? They just fuse? No quick effect means its ignition is only on your turn? Okay. So, only on your turn. Card in hand, pop a card. Okay. So just, like, draw all the cards in the world! And then throw them all away! And destroy everything on their field! Rough times. Yeah. Oh, Ice playing during the time that released in the States? What? This must have been like the beginning of Yu-Gi-Oh! Itself, no? Contact Fusion means you don't need a fusion spell. Okay. They have to be on the field. Oh, that's pretty rough. To be on the field, so it's not very good. Still, the effect is really strong, no?
you could go for an extremely easy OTK. Now, it does require you to summon 3 specific monsters in your deck and have them not be destroyed, but given that they were all moderately decent beaters, it definitely could be worse. Now, for the monster you've all been waiting for, Obelisk the Tormentor is a level 10 Divine Beast with 4...
Look how much text there is on that. Look how much text there is. Where's that skit where it's like, yeah, this god card says it has to be a Tuesday, and if your name is Yugi, you must pay $5, $7 actually.
4,000 attack and 4,000 defense. And its effect, okay, just bear with me, this card requires 3 tributes to normal summon. This card's normal summon cannot be negated.
If this card is normal summoned, cards in effect cannot be activated, except effects of divine monsters. If this card is special summoned in face-up defense position, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, or when your opponent's monster targets another monster you control for an effect, change that target to this card. This card is unaffected by card effects while face-up on a field and cannot be card effects, except the effects of divine monsters. Cannot be returned from the field to the hand by card effects. Your opponent cannot tribute this card. Control this card cannot change. Your opponent cannot equip this card with equip cards. If this attack position card 2,000 during the damage step only. If this card is in attack position, you can attribute 2 other monsters, destroy all monsters your opponent controls, and if you do, inflict 4,000 damage to your opponent. This card cannot declare an attack to turn you activate this effect. Once per turn during the end phase, if this card face-up card was targeted by a spell monster this turn, negate that effect.
Okay.
Wait, actually, if you manage to summon Obelisk, what are you supposed to do? Huh? I mean, it's granted, it's really hard to summon Obelisk, obviously, and no one does it anymore, but like, actually, what do you do to remove it? Summon can't be negated. When it's in face-up defense and you declare an attack, you change the target to this card. Okay, so it protects other cards. Card is unaffected by card effects while face-up. Can it be flipped? Cannot be returned from the field. It can't be bounced. I can't tribute it, so I can't kaiju it. I can't take control of the card. Cannot equip it with equip spells. And if this attack position card battles, you contribute 2 other monsters. This card attacks become infinite during damage step only. If this card is in attack position, you contribute 2 other monsters, destroy all monsters your opponent controls. If you do, deal for 100. Oh, for 1,000. Okay, so like they need to have 2 other monsters in order to use this ability. This card cannot declare an attack the turn you activate this effect. Once per turn, if the face-up card was targeted by a spell or monster effect, negate that effect. Only during the end phase? Once per turn during the end phase, it was special summoned from the graveyard or banished. If this banished card was special summoned, send this card to the graveyard. What the heck? This is a lot. It can be kaiju'd? Okay, so it's like it's allowed to be tributed? I guess it doesn't say anything about not being able to be tributed. No, it says your opponent cannot tribute this card. Your opponent cannot tribute this card. You're not allowed to just tribute it. Can you super poly it? That's considered tributing too, though, right? I think what I can do is summon a Mikanko and smack him. That's all I can imagine right now. I summon a Mikanko and I hit him, and then I win. Because even if he tributes 2 other monsters, he can't destroy my Mikankos. I mean, he can probably remove something in another way, but still. Kaiba tributed it once? That's different. It says your opponent cannot tribute this card. It doesn't say you yourself cannot tribute this card. It can be in the field if it was special summon. Unaffected super poly is an effect. Super poly is an effect? I guess so. Cards and effects cannot be used except for divine monsters. I mean, like, the purpose is, like, you need another divine monster to fight it or whatever. Okay, we don't worry about what Kaiba actually used, because Kaiba breaks his own rules all the time, but Super Poly doesn't exist in OG Yuga. I know it doesn't! The brains in this people. I'm saying cards that would work or not work against this wall of text. Like, realistically, what can you do to remove it? Right? Or win against it, apart from I summon another god monster, right? Obviously, other god monsters work because they're divine, and then the effects go through. But, like, what if you don't have a divine monster? And you don't have a Shizus if you have a god monster die. Trap card. Very situational. Fusion is not considered as tributing. Okay, so it's considered an effect, though, so it's not allowed, but it would not be considered tributing. I see. Okay. But, like, it's effects, so passive abilities should still be allowed, right? It's like we can't be activated. An effect can be activated, but passive effects still should be able to be to go through because it's not being negated. So what if I Gorgoned? I Gorgoned and I pointed towards Obelisk. Would it still be negated? Because I'm not activating the effect. It's just passively pointing at it. Which happens as soon as I put Gorgon on the field. Right? Does not work? You can just throw your opponent's deck into the ocean. You just go over there and punch him. Punch him in real life. That'll win you the duel. Unaffected by card effects, only the Ruma Karma cannon can flip it face down. That's true. You can't like Book of the Moon it because it's an activated effect. You can't negate it because that's an activated effect. I'm just saying, like, it only works if Gorgon is already on the field. Ugh. That's so annoying. You realistically do. Non-targeted removal won't work. You just have to beat it. Beater it, right? And you have to make a gigantic Pearly. an absolutely massive Pearly. The fattest Pearly of all time. And just smack it. Passive effects need to be active before this guy gets on the field. Really? Even with, like... Gorgon can punch it because Gorgon's always attack plus 100. Almost nothing that could stop it. Yami-Yugi would discard Kuribo to reduce damage to 0 to survive. Well, that's tanking it. Tanking it is pretty easy, you know? I'm just saying, like... Although I guess, technically, if it's normal summon, card and effects cannot be activated. So wait a second. How would that work? Hand traps are still cards and effects, and they can't be activated, no? So you, like, wouldn't you not be able to, like, Battle Fader or trap it or anything? Only person that can ever beat them is their own god card. Well, yeah, that's the obvious. Yugi in the final duel had ground erosion, turn jump chain. Affect the card zone in which Obelisk stood, not the god itself. What? What do you mean? Okay, well, it doesn't say if this is normal summon, cards and effects cannot be activated against him. It says cards and effects can't be activated in general. So technically you wouldn't be able to use any spells because they're a card or effect. You can Karibo? Karibo is a card or effect! I don't know! It's an activated card or effect! I don't know! Card lawyering here! I think Judge wouldn't let that fly.
Defense position when an opponent's monster declares an attack, or when your opponent's monster targets card effects. Control this. If this card cannot declare an attack, the turn you activate this effect. Once per turn during the end phase, if this face-up card was targeted by a spell monster's turn, negate that effect.
Okay, so that was pretty long. I've already been over this.
Evenly matched works because it affects the player and not the card on the field. What? So it can a card or effect can activate as long as it's not targeting him? So I could, like, for example, I could, like, grass or greener. Grass is greener because it's targeting his hand and deck or whatever, and not the god card? Really? Okay, that's not what the text says, but I guess that's what the spirit of the text. Yeah, so sure.
If this face-up card was targeted by a spell monster's turn, negate that effect.
Okay, so that was pretty long. I've already been over this card a couple times. By the way, you should also watch these videos after you're finished with this one. It's not hard to see why this card is quite literally game-breakingly unbalanced. 4 stars, it has the highest base stats in the main deck, so you really shouldn't have trouble at all running over things with this card. And even then, your
what if we just fusion summon? Can we fusion summon? We're allowed to fusion summon, right? Fusion summon, ultimate blue eyes. Bam, 4 foot 500.
opponent is unable to interact with it in any way, unless they manage to summon.
It doesn't say you can't just be beaten. You just summon a beater, right?
Somehow get a monster with over 4,000 attack points on the field. Its summon can't be negated, your opponent's card effects can't affect it at all, and your opponent can tribute it with this card. I wasn't even aware of this before, but apparently Obelisk also gives your other monsters protection, as your opponent cannot attack your other monsters, as any attacks get redirected to Obelisk as if this card wasn't broken enough. That alone would have made Obelisk the best card in the deck, but when we move on to its actual effect, you can tribute 2 other monsters to either destroy all monsters your opponent controls and inflict 4,000 burn damage, or allow this card's attack to become infinity. But what this all means is that if you manage to dump Obelisk to the grave and have 2 other monsters on your field, you can very easily special summon it out using either Monster Reborn for an insta win, as long as your opponent has a single monster in attack position, or has 4,000 points or less, which is literally every game. This card is absolutely broken in every way, and there's barely any downsides to this card. Sure, it takes free tributes and
Is Obelisk the best god card? I haven't watched this god card video, so
pretty slow, but for a walking nuclear bomb, it's a pretty good trade-off. We'll move on to the spell and trap section of this deck, and as a whole, Kaiba again seems to have done pretty well for himself. There's the usual staples like Monster Reborn, Pot of Greed, and Crush Card Virus, but he seems to have acquired some similarly broken cards in this arc, one of which is Card of Demise, a normal spell that lets you draw cards until you have 5 cards in your hand. During your 5th standby phase after activation, send all cards in your hand to the graveyard.
5th standby phase. Wow, 5 whole turns? Unheard of in modern Yu-Gi-Oh!
The quote-unquote downside of this card is so laughable that even in the anime, Kaiba never ended up discarding all of the cards in his hand from the cost of this card, and it's not hard to see why. In many cases, it's not hard to go +4 after exhausting your hand completely from a combo or setting multiple traps. So if you manage to draw 5 completely new cards to do more plays with, you logically speaking should be able to win in 1 or 2 turns, let alone 5 whole turns. It could even be seen as better than Yugi's Card of Sanctity, as if you draw it later on in a duel, your opponent couldn't draw cards alongside you. This card is that broken that even in a TCG, a heavily neutered version of this card not only let you draw cards until you had 3 in your hand, and let your opponent take normal damage this turn, the same turn you activated this card, you'd be forced to send.
And there's extra. Draw until you have 3 cards in your hand. Also, for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, your opponent takes no damage. Okay, so this is like the game version of it. During end phase of this turn, send your entire hand to the graveyard. You can only activate 1 card of Demise per turn. Cannot special summon. You cannot special summon? Okay, that's the killer. I was like, this is all not that bad. You can't special summon during the turn you activate this card. Now that's killer. You can't do anything. What's the point of it at that point? What? And you can only draw until you have 3 cards? 3? That's terrible. I was like, if you go first, I could see this happening. Play like a card, play a deck like freaking Tier Elements, just throw your whole hand into the graveyard, whatever. Can't special summon? Oh, it's over. It's dead. Nothing you can do now. What the heck? This is terrible.
And your hand to the grave, and that you also couldn't special summon the same turn, it was still limited in the TCG and banned in Mash.
I mean, I guess you can play Lab. You can play, what is it, like Dino or Paleo or something where you put lots of chops, I guess.
For being that broken. Virus Cannon is a normal spell that lets you send spell cards in your opponent's hand and deck to the graveyard. So yeah, Kaiba seemed to hold every single broken card in the game, because if you manage to get this card off along with Crush Card Virus, well, that just leaves you with weak monsters and traps. Which makes it even crazier that Ishizu was 1 step away from winning with both of these cards applied to her. A spell that you can just activate at any time to make sure your opponent has no access to spells for the rest of the game.
Send spell traps in your hand and deck? And deck? And deck? That's crazy. Just no spell traps. Well, no spells, not traps. Traps are still safe. What the heck? Imagine just like a magic card that was like, send all lands to the graveyard. Like, what?
And also potentially causing your opponent to go minus, as it also discards from the hand. With 90% of decks, this card being played alone would be an instant loss, as there would be very little way to now counter high attack cards like Blue Eyes without attack boosting cards. I mean, at least Crush Card has a requirement to be activated, which makes this card all the more devastating. Now, the card text shown in the anime was written that it could send every single spell, but Kaiba in the game states not only discards 10 total spells. Either way, sending 10 of your opponent's spells, which is likely the majority of their spell arsenal, or sending
so
everyone
much.
can very easily cripple an opponent. Lullaby of Obedience is a normal spell where you pay 1000 life points and declare the card.
Card Demise is used in stun. Yeah, if you have like only traps, that's like, oh, I said two decks you could play that are just like traps only. I can understand if you play only traps, but like, what? Or if you really play a format where you just normal summon all your monsters and that's it, and don't special summon anything. That's kind of gross. Let's remove playsets of cards from a deck. Just don't play the game. Sorry, you chose the wrong deck today, buddy.
Card name of a level 8 or higher monster card. If the declared card is in your opponent's deck, add that card from their deck to your hand. Lullaby of Obedience is surprisingly yet another powerful card, given that most level 8 or higher monsters in Battle City are deck dependent and require setup, and if anything, Kaiba's deck is pretty much guaranteed to have the better boss monsters with Obelisk and Blue Eyes White Dragon.
Oh, if you declare the card name. Oh. You just take their card? You just literally steal it. Oh. What? I mean, you can kind of guess. Even modern day, you can guess what's in their deck. Level 8 or higher? I mean, nowadays, I guess we don't play that many level 8s or higher. it was ranky. That'd be insane.
Dragon, so grabbing yet another 2 tribute monster is most just likely going to be worse than Kaiba's own boss monsters. What's most important about this card though is its ability to prevent your opponent from having your own boss monster. Imagine if Kaiba gave this card to Yugi instead of Fiend's Sanctuary. How is Mario going to win if he couldn't even play a Winged Dragon of Ra?
That would be so funny! You just steal his Ra! You're like, I did my homework, I stocked your deck, I know you have a Ra, give it up for only 1,000 measly life points to steal their Ra. That's so funny. Best used against Yubel? Oh, because they have ranks? I mean, any fusion deck has high ranks, right? So that would work. It would have to be like a fusion or ritual, I guess, like decks. But it doesn't work on the extra deck. I was just gonna say, like, if you have a I know you're running SP Little Knight. Give it here.
Enemy Controller is a quick play spell where you give a command to one of your opponent's monsters on a field with Enemy Controller, and then put one of the following set controls to get the appropriate effect.
Up, left, down, right, A.
Up, left, down, right, A is explode,
B?
and left, right, A, B is sacrifice.
A,
To
B,
translate
A, B.
the full effect, you had the choice of either destroying the opponent's monster or taking control of it. Enemy Controller was yet another example of a powerful spell Kaiba was filling his decks with, as it was a pretty broken multi-purpose card. It was one of the few cards that could destroy monsters for no cost, and on top of that, you could also use it to steal your opponent's boss monster instead. If by some miraculous reason your opponent also managed to summon a powerful boss monster, enough to contend with Blue Eyes. Did I also mention that it was quick play? This card is basically the equivalent of a chainable brain control or a no-cost Raigeki break, all in one. Cost down lets you downgrade one monster card in your hand by 2 levels until the end phase of this turn after this card is activated. Cost down is a pretty powerful card. Anything that can get your Blue Eyes out on the field is always going to be useful. It's a weird card because on the one hand, you don't want too many high-level monsters in your deck, but the lack of many high-level monsters in your deck also means this card's use is mitigated. It might be seen in a better light if it wasn't for a much more powerful version of this card existing in the form of a Soul Exchange. A normal spell now lets both players tribute summon by using monsters their opponent controls. Soul Exchange is genuinely a devastating card, where this
Both players can contribute monsters controlled by their opponent. Yucky. Yucky.
card along with Obelisk can even be a 1-turn combo for an OTK. Since it doesn't limit the number of monsters you contribute, you can very easily use it to clear an opponent's board to summon a Blue Eyes or an Obelisk, leaving them open for an OTK. It also helps in so many cases. It can let you easily summon Obelisk for free, lets you remove any boss monsters your opponent controls, or set up for an OTK. For our first truly awful card, we have First for Compensation, a quick play spell that you can activate when your opponent adds a card to their hand by a card effect.
Activate when you're adds a card to your effect. Okay. Like Droll. Special summon up to 2 level 4 or lower monsters from your hand in a face up defense. Oh, I guess the face up defense. Okay. Cannot change their battle positions or be tributed for a tribute summon. What? Huh?
Special summon up to 2 level 4 or lower monsters from your hand in face up defense position. These monsters cannot change their battle positions and also
So what did
cannot
you
be
use them
tributed.
for?
There's only really one function for this card,
Defense?
and it's to summon the required tributes so Obelisk can proc his effect, and that requires 2 tributes. This card might be useful if you could use it to summon a Blue Eyes or even use it to spam monsters for an attack, but given that it basically forces you to turn your monsters into unusable walls that only serve to be destroyed, it's basically useless. It's even worse now that you consider that you may as well just be better off normal summoning your level 4 monsters because of the high attack monsters in this deck, so you can actually use them. Absorb Spell is a spell that you can activate when an attack of an opponent's monster is increased by the effect of a spell card. Your monsters gain that attack instead. Absorb Spell is by most metrics unusable. Sure, it can work out occasionally, but in most cases the card is just going to be lying dead on your field, waiting for your opponent to boost their monsters. You'd be better off just running a card that you can boost the attack of your own monsters with. It's ultimately just too reactive a card to be considered good. Card Guard is a quick play spell that lets you discard 1 card from your hand. This turn, monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects.
Oh, that's not
Card
bad.
Guard is pretty broken for many use cases. If you're building up to 3 tributes for Obelisk, you can use it to protect your board,
Yeah, just
or
keep
even chain it to a
stalling.
card like Mirrorforce for some easy protection. Or if the opponent manages to build a board capable of bringing down your boss monster like Blue Eyes, it can be a good way to give yourself a turn before you make a counter attack. An interesting spell that Kaiba uses is Quick Attack, that allows fusion monsters to
Quick
attack
attack.
when they are
Hero
As I
move.
mentioned before, fusion monsters function differently from the real life game, where they wouldn't be able to attack the turn they were summoned, as a way to nerf them, given their high attacks. But with its actual use, it's more of a plot device, rather than anything actually useful. It's a good narrative way to change the flow of a duel, as it can
That's
provide
like
for
a
an unexpected
Magic the
attack by a
Gathering.
fusion
It
monster.
has
But in
no
a
longer
normal,
has
realistic
summoning
duel,
sickness.
fusion summoning itself rarely happens given the inconsistency, so it results in quick attack being a dead card in most cases. The surprise or tempo upgrade of being able to attack with a fusion monster the same turn is not nearly as useful enough to justify it being in a deck. Interdimensional Matter Transporter is a quick play spell that lets you select one face-up monster you control and remove it from the play until the end of the turn.
Oh. You control? I guess you can save it. It's like 1/2 of SP if it's getting it targeted. You just banish it for the turn.
It might sound like a useless card that doesn't do that much, because what's the point of removing your card for one turn, only then for it to come back in the same exact way during the end phase? Well, what this card actually can do is dodge any form of monster removal your opponent throws at you. For example, your opponent decides to activate Aragaki blowing up your field, just chain this card to let your monster take a break for this turn, and it can come back all ready for action. It's still way too niche, but still a fun card that can come in handy occasionally. Shrink, rather simply, is a quick play spell that lets you half the attack of any monster on the field. Not much to say other than it being obviously very powerful. In a slow format like this, having an attack of problematic monsters is always going to be useful, if not for the extra damage, but also for the ability to deal with high attack monsters. It also can be combined with Crush Card Virus by being used on a dark monster like Force Raider to fulfill the 1000 attack requirement. Spell Sanctuary is a continuous spell that lets each player take one spell card from their deck and add it to their hand. When this card is face up on the field, players can activate spell cards on their opponent's turn. This card again was another case of a plot device being used in anime. As in a manga, duelists could use spells during their opponent's turn like they were traps, but looking at it from the perspective of a real usable card, it's another game-breakingly powerful card. So many broken spells would become even more degenerate if activated during your opponent's turn. Your opponent finally manages to summon their boss monster out, chain Aragaki to the summon. Even if your opponent decided they didn't want to deal with every spell becoming a quick play spell and used their search on the mystical space typhoon, it wouldn't matter, as you still get free search for any spell from your deck. The only real issue of this card isn't necessarily with the card itself, but rather the deck it's found in. Looking at the spell cards Kaiba uses, there aren't really any normal spells that benefit from using this card. All the spells that are worth to use on your opponent's turn are already quick play spells. But what use is a chain of stop defense? Still, it's a pretty broken card solely based on the fact that it itself can let you add other broken cards like Heart of Demise or Virus Cannon. Ring of Defense is a spell card that reduces the effect damage to you from the effect of a trap card to 0. This card is only really used as a 2-card combo alongside Ring of Destruction to prevent Kaiba from taking damage, but without it you're just looking at a card that can sometimes prevent you from taking 500 damage from Hinotama. Another awful card.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Most traps cards don't do that much damage. I guess if you're really looking to defend from a mirror force.
Moving on to the traps in Battle City, Kaiba doesn't seem to use as many traps as one would expect, and somehow Kaiba manages to hit it out of the park again with the traps, with again a lot of the cards being so absurdly broken. Attack Guidance Armor is a normal trap that lets you direct an attack to a monster that is equipped with the cursed armor. Ignoring the weird borderline flavor text of the effect, going off of the anime usage, Attack Guidance Armor seems to redirect the attack of any of your opponent's monster's attacks to any other monster of your choice, which in that case makes the card a solid battle trap, causing your opponent to destroy potentially a vital monster of theirs, and causing some life point damage is always a good thing, or even forcing them to attack a strong monster. Just a reliable trap all around. Magical Trick Mirror is a normal spell that you can only activate when an opponent's monster declares an attack, and then you can activate one spell card from your opponent's grave. Being able to steal any spell means that you now have access to cards like Monster Reborn, Pot of Greed, and Card of Sanctity. You could even use this card alongside Virus
Activate only when a opponent's monster declares an attack. Activate a spell from your opponent's graveyard. Opponent? Oh. Okay, I mean that depends. That depends on what spells they've played, but that's pretty good. Usually they like I don't know, free spell.
Cannons, so you have access to the entirety of the opponent's spell lineup. Power Balance is a normal trap that you can only activate when you have no cards in your hand. Your opponent discards half of the cards in their hand and draw cards equal to the number of cards your opponent discarded. As if Kaiba didn't have enough broken draw cards. Power Balance not only lets you go plus in card advantage,
that's insane.
also make your opponent go negative. So it essentially can be a +6.
There's no way this card is allowed.
If you draw on your starting turn, exhaust your hand, and then use this on your opponent's draw, leaving them with 3 cards in their hand. Even if
this kind of, I mean, I guess you can only activate when there's no cards in your hand, but still, this reminds me of freaking the Iono card from Pokemon TCG. Maiba hated every time I'm up in prize cards and I use it, I'm just sitting there throwing away all my fancy cards I needed to draw my important energies.
If you draw this later in the game where the opponent only has 1 or 2 cards, it's still a +1 at worst. Cloning is a normal trap that you can only activate when your opponent summons a monster, duplicate that monster, and special summon a copy to your field. There's no real way to tell if the duplicated monster keeps the original effects, which would be pretty powerful in cases where you could copy a card like Dark Paladin, but it can be used for a 1-for-1 trade of their monster or for tribute summoning. Final Attack Orders is a continuous trap where as long as this card remains face up on the field, all face up monsters on the field are changed to attack position and cannot change in a battle position. Upon activation, both players choose 3 cards in their respective decks. All cards that were not selected are sent to their respective graveyards, and 3 chosen cards are returned to their respective decks in any order. It appears that Yugi and Kaiba's duel spawned a lot of insanely broken cards, as this card was used in that duel. Within the deck though, it's kind of useless, as there are not many cards that benefit from discarding your entire deck to the grave. It can be used to set up for a monster reborn into an obelisk, but besides that, the deck doesn't have too many ways for it to interact with the grave. The final trap is Ring of Destruction, which lets you destroy 1 face-up monster and then inflict damage to both players equal to its attack. Ring of Destruction is yet another powerful trap that Kaiba utilizes in his deck. It's not only a solid piece of removal, but also deals burn damage to finish off your opponent. Dealing burn damage is pretty solid in a beatdown deck like Kaiba's, where you can even combo it by dealing 1000 damage with literally any monster, and use Ring of Destruction on Blue Eyes to seal the deal. So overall, you'll notice that Battle City is quite a bit of a step up in terms of power, in comparison to Duelist Kingdom, which was to be expected. It has most notably a god card, and plenty of powerful normal summonable monsters. So many of these monsters are incredibly powerful, which themselves could be an ace card for another character, but is yet another monster for Kaiba. Unfortunately though, the ratio of high level monsters to lower level monsters isn't the best, with 10 tribute monsters and 50 normal summonable monsters, which can lead to some hands being bricked.
He's Kaiba, he'll never break.
As another certain duelist. The trap and spell lineup though is pretty stellar. There's a lot of broken draw cards like Pot of Greed, Card of Demise, and Power Balance, so the deck shouldn't have too much trouble with consistency. With cards like Crush Card Virus or Virus Cannon, your opponent won't even be able to play the game. Even with the number of high tribute monsters, the spells and traps help with this issue, with cards like Soul Exchange, Enemy Controller, or the number of ways
so
to deal
many
with powerful
cards that would
monsters
just
like Ring of
win a game
Destruction,
normally.
Tag Armor, or Shadow Spell.
What?
The deck has most of its bases covered. Overall, it's probably
I guess
Kaiba's
they
deck
needed
at
to
its
give him
best.
some brick
Sure,
eyes
there's
to nerf
definitely a
his
couple
deck.
optimizations that could be made, like getting rid of Sword Stalker and Gadget Soldier, but the deck as a whole is still pretty powerful. Halfway in between Battle City, there was a filler arc, which can basically be summarized as a crash course into Kaiba's unresolved childhood issues, where the game format slightly changes, and we see a completely new deck that Kaiba would yield. The biggest
What? He had a completely new deck in between? I had no idea he switched his decks that often. Really? Kaiba being coded as a monster beatdown duelist, more monsters? He has the best monsters in the game! I think the one point we've made repeatedly is he has the best beaters. He has the best tributes and the best non-tributes. No one else has the genie, right? Like Mr. Jin or whatever. He's like the best non-tribute ice attack guy out there. Not that he has trouble tributing anything he really needs to. The power of money, you can get anything.
Change is the addition of Deck Masters, a special new mechanic where each player could choose any monster from their main deck or fusion deck, which would give each duelist their own set of benefits during the duel. These monsters can't be interacted with unless the player chooses to.
What? Oh, I don't really remember this. What is this? They have a little mascot commander?
To special summon their own deck master to the field, with the caveat being that if at any point this deck master is taken off the field, then the player automatically loses.
What? Oh my god! If you lose your commander, they die, and you just lose. Dang. Okay, I don't remember this one. Deck master rules. Wow, that would be kind of fun to play with, though. It's like it's like protecting your like king, right? I don't remember the rules of this arc at all. I do vaguely remember watching it though, because it was kind of fun. Right? But like, you can lose your commander in Commanders. No, you're allowed to lose them. This one is just you automatically lose. Oof.
being that if at any point this deck master is taken off the field, then the player automatically loses, ignoring their number of life points. Barring some exceptions, where the previous deck master gets tributed for another monster, where that monster now becomes
and then
the
Kaiba
new deck
dies.
master. As choosing an appropriate deck master is also a key part of the deck building process, we'll be evaluating Kaiba's choice of a deck master, of
Which is just Blue Eyes. Come on. Like, they have to choose their iconic boys. Is choosing Karibo the right choice? No, probably not, but doesn't matter. It's plot reasons, we gotta do it.
which Kaiba used a total of 3 over the course of the arc. Lord of Dragons would let you pay 500 life points to special summon one dragon type monster from your hand, but would still require the tributes if it was level 5 or higher. Kaiser's Seahorse lets you normal summon light monsters with
Oh, they give you different effects. Wait, is this like Duel Links? But instead of like choosing a person, you get a card that has a different ability.
require the tributes if it was level 5 or higher. Kaiser's Seahorse lets you normal summon light monsters with 1 less tribute than required, and Blue Eyes' deck master ability would let any fusion monster summoned using it attack the turn it was summoned. We have to kind of reverse engineer the deck master ability because unlike card effects, they never bother to show the full text for the abilities. As such, some of these effects are approximations or guesses to what the full effect is. Lord of Dragons' deck master ability is pretty useful. Being able to summon a Luster Dragon turn 1 with any tribute monster is pretty broken, and with this increase in tempo places you in a much more favourable position. A thing to note though is that you'll still need to have the required tributes if you're summoning something like Blue Eyes. Kaiser's Seahorse is also a pretty solid deck master. Being able to summon Hyozan Ryu, Different Dimension Dragon, and Blue Eyes and Kaiser Glider for 1 less tribute is a pretty powerful ability. The only issue is that the deck's only viable light cards were all the monsters I listed, and if the deck was constructed towards being built for the deck master, this deck master could be abused in pretty broken ways. The other deck master that Kaiba used is kind of a weird one. Kaiba did technically choose Blue Eyes as his deck master, but rather a simulated version of Kaiba. And we also never get full confirmation of Blue Eyes' ability as a deck master, as all we are given is that when Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon was summoned, Kaiba's deck master ability would let Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon attack the turn it was summoned. What is unclear is that with the deck master rules, as Blue Eyes was used for a fusion material for Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, we don't know if fusion monsters being able to attack the turn they are summoned is through Blue Eyes' ability or Ultimate Dragon's ability. Assuming it is base Blue Eyes' deck master ability, it makes it pretty useless. As we all know, summoning Blue Eyes
Doesn't really have that many
Dragon is a feat
fusions
by itself, so the ability of being able to attack the turn it's summoned is barely ever going to come up. That being said, Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon was summoned on turn 1 of the duel, letting Kaiba attack, even on
He summoned it turn 1. Of course he did. Of course he draws everything he needs.
the
Jesus.
very first turn, which theoretically means you can FTK your opponent. Still, it's not a very good deck master ability regardless, as the chances of getting all 4 cards in your starting hand are near impossible. Now that we've gone over the deck masters that Kaiba uses, I think the better way to evaluate how good they are is actually to compare it to other deck masters we see in the arc. The power of deck masters widely varies. For example, taking a look at Yugi's deck master with Dark Magician, it lets him activate any previously used spell card this turn again by paying 1000 life points. Whilst it can be conditional, just imagine using this ability after a card of demise. Or Judge Man's incredibly broken effect, which let you pay 1000 life points to remove from play all monsters your opponent controls, and also inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each monster removed. So is Kaiba's choice of deck masters the best ones? No. Given that he had access to the entire database, ignoring mythical cards like the gods, he could have just chosen a deck master like Judge Man, never summon it, and only use its ability, or even having a deck master be something like 5-headed dragon would have secured him the duel in so many cases, as he could have just summoned it if the opponent had an empty board to go for game. Moving on to Kaiba's actual deck, we see a bit of overhaul of the composition. This time there's a much bigger focus on dragon monsters in comparison to Battle City, with a bunch of new support for them, and of course the removal of Kaiba's obelisk. There's only 2 new normal monsters, both of which are again in the upper echelon of normal monsters in the entire anime. Luster Dragon 2 is a 1 tribute monster of 2400 attack, which makes it better than Red Eyes, and Zoa is a 2 tribute.
I like that's just the returning theme. Everything is better than Red Eyes. This dragon's better than Red Eyes. This dragon's better than Red Eyes. Heck, who plays Red Eyes nowadays?
The 1 tribute monster of 2400 attack, which makes it better than Red Eyes, and Zoa is a 2 tribute monster with 2600 attack, which also makes it stronger than Dark Magician. Twin-headed Behemoth is a level 3 Dragon Wind monster with 1500 attack and 1200 defense. If this monster is destroyed and sent to the grave, this monster is special summoned with an attack and defense of 1000 during the end phase of this turn. This effect can only be used once during the current duel. This
Only
is a
once
decent
per
card
duel.
in Kaiba's deck, mainly because it's useful tribute fodder. It can be used as a good wall for turn 1, then set up for a tribute for a more powerful monster the following turn. Vampire Lord is a level 5 dark zombie monster with 2000 attack and 1500 defense, and every time this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent's life points, you can declare one card type. Your opponent selects one card of that type from their deck and sends it to the grave. If this card is destroyed and sent to the grave by your opponent's card effect, it's special summoned to the field during your next standby phase. This might be going against the grain here, but the mandatory of sending cards to the grave isn't that great. It can
Yeah,
give
exactly. It's really bad. There's a lot of... That's like a free, foolish burial. Nowadays, anyway. But even back then, there's a lot of graveyard effects for like, if this is sent to the grave, oh, please activate my send to the graveyard.
give them the opportunity to basically deck thin and remove any bad cards. The stats on this card are also a bit underwhelming for Kaiba's deck, given how other 1 tribute monsters have better stats or even better effects. What is pretty strong, however, is the revival effect from Effect Destruction, which along with its 2000 attack can mean it can be pretty annoying to deal with. The Wicked Worm Beast is a level 3 Earth Beast monster with 1400 attack and 700 defense, and if this card is face up on the field at the end of the turn, it's returned to the owner's hand. For a first proper stinker of a monster, this is just bad. There's no real reason to even run this card in the first place. There already exists enough monsters now with better stats. Its effect is also
It can't even be tributed because it just goes back to your hand.
Given that forces you to set a card with a measly 700 defense points, as otherwise you're left defenseless. Spirit Ryu is a level 4 Wind Dragon monster with 1000 attack and defense, with the following effect. You can only activate this effect during the damage step when this card battles. You can discard any number of dragon type monsters from your hand to increase this card's attack by 1000 for every dragon type monster discarded. At the end phase of this turn, this card's effect was activated. This card's attack is decreased to its original attack. So basically you get to go -1 to gain 1000 attack points for a single turn. Getting a 2000 beat stick for a turn isn't good enough to justify its
that's kind of
existence,
bad.
especially when in most cases it's just an 1000 attack monster. Spear Dragon is a level 4 wind monster with 1900 attack, where
Okay, this thing is so ugly. That card? Go.
deals piercing damage, and if it attacks, it changes to defense position at the end of the damage step. Spear Dragon is a pretty powerful card. In most cases, it's one use, but 1900 beater with piercing is still pretty useful. Slate Warrior is a flip theme wind monster with 1900 attack and 400 defense. One flip, increase the attack and defense of this card by 500 points, and anytime a monster destroys this battle, the stats are decreased by 500 points. Slate Warrior is probably one of the best level 4s in Kaiba's deck. For starters, even without its effect, its stats place it in the upper
Okay. Now that it's depicted in the anime, I can kind of visualize it. That artwork was so, like, confusing. I had no idea what I was looking at.
tier of level 4s for the deck. It has a very interesting design with its effect though, as it has a risk or reward style of use. You can place it in defense position to let it potentially get 2400 attack at a risk of its low defense points, or just leave an attack for the still admittedly
Isn't the whole point of flip cards to be flipped? I feel like I would just flip it.
powerful 1900. Even if it does get destroyed, a 500 stat debuff is still something that's useful. Possessed Dark Soul is a level 3 Dark Fiend monster with 1200 attack and 800 defense. Where you contribute this card, take control of every level 3 monster your opponent controls. Possessed Dark Soul is another monster that doesn't work at all.
That's like so situational. Not many people are running level 3s. Level 4s maybe, level 3s is so random. If you actually summon 2 level 4 monsters. Sleeper used to be restricted, really? I mean, like, it's a permanent debuff. Nowadays, not a lot of cards do permanent, like, stat cuts.
Its stats are too low, so you're left with a monster where its only use is its ability. But its effect also fails, given the relative scarcity of level 3 monsters. Giant Germ is a level 2 Fiend Dark monster with 1000 attack and 100 defense, and when this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the grave, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. Then you can special summon any number of Giant Germs from your deck.
Okay, that's not terrible. Let's burn.
Pretty powerful card, as it can be used for a wall.
But the face-up attack kind of sucks.
The problem is, well, Kaiba only runs 2 for some reason in this arc. Giant Germ was played in 2 different duels, and for both games, Kaiba only summon 2 out, so unless you chose to arbitrarily leave the last copy for later, Giant Germ can't even be used for an easy Blue Eyes. Regardless, it's still a useful card to set up for tributes. Cave Dragon is a level 4 Wind Dragon with 2000 attack and 100 defense, where if you control another monster on your field, you can't summon Cave Dragon, and if there are no dragon type monsters on the field, this
Huh? Isn't this terrible? Cannot be normal summon while you control a monster. This card cannot even declare its attack until you control another dragon type monster. What?
card cannot attack. Cave Dragon is a good card. A normal
Really?
summonable 2k beater is still a viable monster.
I guess
even
it's
if it has
okay
heavy
with
restrictions.
2000,
And
but
once
like,
it's set
really?
up, the restrictions for it to be able to attack and won't need continuous resources like a card such as Panther Warrior, so all around it's a valuable card. Different Dimension
Really?
Dragon is a level 5 light dragon monster with 1400 attack and 1500 defense, with the effect that spells or traps cannot destroy this card, unless the spell or trap specifically targets it. This card
It has to be. Oh, that's funny. That's the opposite of non-targeted. It must be targeted removal. Not destroyed as a result of battle.
also cannot be destroyed by battle. This card is one of the
Wow.
best walls in the deck. Having battle protection and spell and trap destruction means it's close to uninteractable for the opponent. It could have
Yeah,
better
you
stats,
can't
of
rank
course,
Geki
but
yet.
still a solid 1 tribute monster. Ancient Lamp is a level 3 wind spellcaster with 900 attack and 1400 defense. When this face down defense position card is attacked by your opponent's monster, you can make one of the opponent's monsters be attacked instead. While this card is face up on the field, you can special summon one Lajin and Mystical Genie of the lamp from your hand. Whilst it has a cute lore effect of quite literally summoning a genie from the lamp, it's incredibly mediocre. The best use of this card is a 2-card combo to special summon a 1700 beater from your hand. It doesn't even let you special summon from the deck, which really hurts.
Yeah, it has to be
its
from the hand. That
consistency.
sucks.
The redirection attack effect is definitely useful, but also can be outplayed if the opponent only has a single monster. Looking at the new spells, a Winged Beat of Giant Dragon is a spell which lets you return one face-up level 5 or higher dragon monster on your side of the field to the owner's hand, and destroy all spell and trap cards on the field.
Level
The good
5
news
or
about this
higher.
card is that you won't be struggling to find level 5 or higher dragon monsters, as there are 10 total cards applicable with it. The bad news is that you need level 5 or higher dragon monsters to be able to use this card, which means that this card is just too bricky to be good. It's even worse
Right?
given that Kaiba also has Heavy Storm in this deck, which
Oh
is
my
just
god. It literally does what Heavy Storm does, but worse. I could understand like a lower level monster, but level 5, you have to tribute it and like out and everything. I would rather just keep the monster.
objectively a better card for this deck. Double Snare is a normal spell that lets you destroy one face-up card on the field that has an effect and negates trap card effects. Double
That's
Snare's inclusion
kind
in
of
the deck, let
random.
alone the anime, is a puzzling one. It appeared 3 different times in 3 different Duelist decks, but was never played at all. What exactly was the goal of this card? To be the most racist Jinzo card? It's hilariously restrictive given that there's probably like 6 total cards in the anime that negate the effects of trap cards. By far the worst
Just
card Kaiba has ever used.
anti-Jinzo.
Burst Breath is a normal trap that lets you tribute one dragon type monster on your side of the field. Destroy all face-up monsters on the field whose defense is equal to or less than the attack of the tributed monster. Burst Breath is a pretty powerful card. It gives you a chainable way to destroy the opponent's monsters on their turn, and with the new powerful dragons in the deck, you'll have no problem activating its destruction effect. Dragon's Rage is a continuous trap where during battle between any attacking dragon monster you control and a defense position monster whose defense is lower than the attack of the attacking monster, inflict the difference as battle damage to your opponent. Being another piece of dragon support for
yeah,
the
that's
deck,
good.
it's a pretty good addition to the beatdown style Kaiba uses. Given that powerful dragon monsters like Blue Eyes or even Cave Dragon,
Piercing
having
is
this
always
card on
good.
the field along with it can take down an opponent from 4k life points even in 2 turns. The only problem is that it's kind of a brick if you only control the weaker dragon monsters, or even worse, none at all. Soul Demolition is a continuous trap which you can only activate when you have a fiend type monster on your side of the field. Both players can pay 500 life points to remove any card from their opponent's grave. Way too conditional to be activated given that there's 5 fiends total in the
Just
deck.
call
And even
by
then,
them.
The actual effect of the card is useless against the majority
Just
of
call
decks in
by
the
them.
anime.
What are you
Last
doing?
Turn is a normal trap that can only be activated during your opponent's turn when your life points are 1000 or less. Select one monster on your side of the field and send all of your cards on the field and each hand to the grave. After that, your
What?
opponent selects and special summons one monster from their deck in
What?
face-up attack position. The player whose monster remains face-up on the field at the end phase of his turn wins the duel. Any other case results in a draw. Man, this card really is an anime card in all the best ways. Blue
Yeah.
Eyes in most cases should win you the battle, and in the worst case, you can just use different dimension dragon to guarantee yourself a draw. You could also combo it along with Crush Card Virus, which would also guarantee you the win. And here's also a fun fact I found out when researching this card. The 2 cards on this card are spirit monsters, which means that you can even summon them using last turn. So how successful is this new deck that Kaiba constructs in Virtual World? Ignoring the obelisk size hole in the deck, it's slightly
kind of a
more of an
weird
upgrade
deck.
in comparison to Battle City. There's less hyper-specific spells and traps in the deck, even if there are a couple. But on the whole, the addition of all these new monsters are a welcome addition. There's no new cards that really stand out in any way, compared to something like Obelisk or Chaos Emperor Dragon, but definitely isn't bad by any sense of the word. On to Waking the Dragons, Kaiba at this point in the anime has lost Obelisk to
What happened to Waking the Dragons? I feel like I didn't watch this arc. I don't remember enough. What happened there?
Yugi. But in its place, he acquires a totally new powerful card, Fang of Critias. Fang of Critias is a
What?
legendary dragon card which lets you send 1 trap card you control to the grave, to special summon a fused version of this card in that trap. Now, just like how polymerization was handled in Duelist Kingdom, Fang of Critias has limitless potential, as it can fuse with any trap card. This means that solves one of the big problems with fusion summoning, meaning that any fusion with Critias will be way more consistent, as you only need 1 trap and itself, ignoring any of its potential fusion abilities. At the very
So yeah, that's pretty good.
least from all the fusions we've seen that are produced from this card, it results
Is the Orichalcus? Oh, I don't remember this arc at all. What on earth was going on? You lose, you die. Many such cases. That's the first season too. Okay, not really, but like every game is a shadow game. Ha ha ha. Anime only filler. Oh.
in pretty powerful beaters, as Tyrant Burst Dragon and Mirror Force Dragon all had attack in a high 2000s range, so an easy to do 2-card combo for a fusion monster is always a strong and powerful addition. That being said, there are 3 fusions we have seen this card make: Doom Virus Dragon, Mirror Force Dragon, and Tyrant Burst Dragon.
A lot
Tyrant
more
Burst Dragon
fusions.
is a level 8 dragon fusion monster with 2900 attack and 2500 defense, which is a fusion of Tyrant Wing and Fang of Critias, which lets you banish it to target one dragon type monster you control. It gains 400 attack and can attack all monsters your opponent.
Okay, so they have Tyrantish dragons at this point. That's not Mr. Tyrant that I know. But the fusion with 2 specific cards. Remove this card from play, select a dragon type monster. It gains 400 attack and can attack all cards. It's just like Tyrant, but worse. It has to banish itself. It has to banish itself? Why?
Opponent controls. This card
Oh,
is
it's
pretty
the- it
awesome.
should have been
The best thing this
Meimi-mu-me-mo.
card is going for it is its attack, as there are very few instances where sacrificing a 2900 beat stick to allow your monster to attack all of your opponent's monsters is a good trade.
Right,
Sure, if you
just-
use it on
just-
Blue Eyes,
just
it can
summon
become
Tyrant.
an OTK enabler. You'd much rather it be able to do something without being reliant on other monsters. Mirror Force Dragon, on the other hand, is ironically a much more powerful dragon fusion, as it's a level
Mirror
8 dragon
Force?
fusion with 2800 attack.
Was this arc just about fusing dragons with different trap cards? This is what I'm getting here. They're all the dragons that are fusions of trap cards instead of other monsters.
And 1200 defense,
I
and is a
see.
fusion of Fang of Critias and Mirror Force with
incredibly
the following effect.
incredibly
If this card
specific
battles an
here.
opponent's monster whose attack is equal to or greater than this card's attack, your opponent takes battle damage equal to the combined difference of the attack of this card and each of their opponent's monsters, with lower attack than this card. And then
Dang.
destroy all monsters your opponent controls. Genuinely
And then destroy all monsters. What the? Okay, well, yeah, who even needs to play Mirror Force at this point?
battle damage equal to the combined difference of the attack of this card and each of their opponent's monsters, with lower attack than this card. And then destroy all monsters your opponent controls. Genuinely an unstoppable card.
That's
with
so
it even
good.
itself being a game ender. Your
What the
opponent
heck?
is barely going to have ways to deal with this, unless it's through monster removal. And if they do manage to summon a monster powerful enough to stand toe-to-toe with it, they risk their field being wiped out. Or even worse, having your life points taken away due to Mirror Force's Dragon's Burn effect. The only caveat with this card being that it'll be hard to find a monster of 2800 or more attack very frequently. But if you combo along with a card like Shrink, makes this card an extremely deadly piece of removal. The final fusion is Doom Virus Dragon. Level 4
Oh my god, Crush Card Virus and this dragon. This is like a weird D&D mashup. What if my trap cards were dragons? Oh, is this when Timaeus was? This is when Timaeus was with Yuki's cards? I didn't know that was actually an anime thing too. The villains had the ability to capture souls and didn't need the Millennium items, so anyone could suddenly be a threat. Okay, we just needed an excuse. Okay, no more Millennium items, but we can still kill you. We can just kill you in real life from a children's card game. Kaiba fusions with chaps. Joey was with spell cards. Yugi fusion with one monster. Eh? The Yellow Vork House is about stealing 1,000,000 souls across the world to summon his great evil beast. I guess Zoe's a villain.
Dark Dragon with 1900 attack and 1500 defense, which can only be summoned using Fang of Critias and Crush Card Virus. While this card is face up on the field, destroy all monsters your opponent controls with 1500 or more
What?
attack. This is probably the best out of the trio, given that it's essentially a floodgate that doesn't allow the opponent to form a board to compete with yours.
This is easier to summon than Crush Card.
Now, it's not as good as being able to destroy every monster with 1500 attack from
I
your
guess
opponent's
that's true,
deck,
it's a one
but
time.
the fact that it's a quicker version of Crush Card that doesn't require
Yeah, but
you
it's
to
more
draw a
like-
card with a
It's more consistent though.
1000 or less attack means that it's still borderline broken. Fang of Critias isn't the only new addition he gets, as there's also some new cards starting with Versago the Destroyer. Level 3 Dark Fiend monster with 1100 attack and 900 defense, and you can use it to substitute for any fusion material monster. And if you do, the other fusion material monsters must be correct. There's only 3 relevant fusions we ever see Kaiba use: Twin Thunder Dragon, Ixie's Dragon Cannon, and Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. There's no use with using Versago on Thunder Dragon, as any single copy of it lets you add 2 more. Whilst Ixie's Dragon Cannon is a fusion monster, it has to be summoned by contact summoning, which isn't actually fusion summon. So Versago
that's
doesn't
true.
even work here. And sure, Versago does work with Blue Eyes, but the card only has one specific use in this deck, then it's not a good card. Another new Union monster Kaiba gets is Pitch Dark Dragon, a dark, level 3 Dragon Union monster with 900 attack and 600 defense, where during your main phase, if you control this card on the field, you can equip it to your Dark Blade as an equipped spell card, or unequip this card and special summon it in face-up attack position. While equipped to a monster by this card's effect, increase the attack and defense of the equipped monster by 400 attack and defense.
This is so much text. Okay, whatever. It just increases 400 when it attacks with an attack higher than defense position inflict. Okay,
When
there's
it attacks with
piercing.
an attack that's higher than the defense of a defense position
Blah, 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 blah,
monster,
blah, for
inflict the
100
defense as
and
battle
piercing.
damage to your opponent's life points. If the equipped monster would be destroyed as a result of battle, you can destroy this card instead.
And the slight
Pitch Dark Dragon for
protection.
this arc appears to be the Sagi the Dark Clown substitute, so its union effect is functionally useless. Paladin of White
Yeah.
Dragon is a level 4 light ritual dragon monster with 1900 attack and 1200 defense. This monster can only be ritual summoned with White Dragon Ritual. White Dragon Ritual is just a standard ritual spell
He has
which
one
requires
ritual
you to offer
card.
monsters whose levels equal to 4 or more. When this monster attacks a face-down defense position monster,
4
destroy
or
the
more?
face-down
That's
monster
pretty
immediately.
low.
You can also special summon one Blue Eyes White Dragon from your hand or deck by tributing this card, and that monster cannot attack during that turn. Paladin of White Dragon in a vacuum is a pretty powerful card. Being able to access a 3k beater is pretty powerful, and it also has pretty easy summoning conditions with its level. The only problem is that, well, it's a ritual monster. It's too
Yeah, it's a
inconsistent to be
ritual.
reliable, and if you don't have the ritual spell or vice versa, then
And
the
he has
cards
no
are
searches
individually
for his
useless.
spells,
Regardless,
usually.
it's still a pretty useful card, with its face-down
It's okay,
destruction effect and being able to summon Blue Eyes at any point. Charm of Lamentation is a continuous spell where every time your monster attacks an opponent's monster, and that monster is not destroyed by battle, draw 1 card. Charm of Lamentation is one of those cards that could be absolutely abused by certain decks. It goes against the entire goal of Kaiba's deck, which is beat down with high attack monsters, and this card requires the opponent's monster
Each time a monster you control attacks an opponent's monster and that monster is not destroyed by battle, draw a card. I can only think of my pearly happiness. Pearly happiness.
to be still on the field.
Just
at the
draw a
end
lot
the
of
turn.
cards.
It does combo well with different Dimension Dragon, but honestly, with the amount of crazy draw power this deck has, there's no need for
But
it.
yeah, just
Tyrant
play
Wing
your
is a normal
broken
trap that you
greed,
can only
pots of
activate when
greed.
an opponent's monster declares an attack. Equip this card to face up monster you control. It gains 400 attack and can attack twice during the same battle phase, while your opponent controls the monster. Similar to Pitch Dark Dragon, Tyrant Wing is another solid equip, but its restrictions hurt its playability quite a lot. It seems completely arbitrary to need to wait for your opponent to attack. If you have a powerful monster on board, they're unlikely to attack into your monsters, leaving this card just being dead. This arc is kind of short in terms of new cards Kaiba gets, and there's not that much of a difference between this deck and Battle City. But looking at the biggest change, the swapping of Obelisk to Fang of Critias, it's not that much of a downgrade that you might expect. Sure, did Kaiba lose an unstoppable god monster that could win the duel once it was summoned? Yeah, but in exchange the deck received a super consistent card that could summon pretty broken boss monsters. Depending on what other fusions this could make, you could even have made a case for it being better than Obelisk, just due to the fact that it's playable in mostly every single occasion. With this being the final arc in anime, and now we see Kaiba using cards in, as in Dawn of the Duel, Kaiba only has a single duel, and isn't even seen with a single new card.
What is this one about?
This is all
Evil
we have
Merit?
in terms of original anime. That doesn't mean that there's nothing noteworthy with this arc, as there's a new strategy that Kaiba uses that we haven't seen before. Clone Dragon is a level 4 light dragon monster with question mark attack and defense. When you summon a monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. When this card is special summoned this way, its name and attack and defense become the same as the summon.
What? Wait, isn't this really good? This card cannot declare an attack unless you pay 1,000 life points. I mean, you could just get it, use it as a summon as well. I guess it's okay. It doesn't get the effect. It doesn't become an effect, but it becomes like effectively like a token that matches the same thing. Like what? Evil Bakura? Okay, so this is the Evil Bakura arc we fight. Lamentation is the guy imitating Pegasus until Kaiba drew a wing of giant dragon to wipe the boar. Lamentation does?
Monsters. This card cannot declare an attack unless you pay 1,000 life points. A pretty phenomenal addition to the deck. Being able to set up another tribute monster, or even duplicated Blue Eyes, gives the card quite.
That's like the modern cards are always summon it from hand if you have another card kind of thing.
Bit of utility. Chaos Emperor Dragon, Envoy of the End, is a level 8 dark dragon monster with 3,000 attack and 2,500 defense, and cannot be normal summoned or set. This card can only be special summoned by removing from play one light and one dark monster in your grave.
Light and darkness dragon? No. Once per turn pay 1,000.
By paying 1,000 life points.
Oh, there's like a card destruction effect.
Send all cards in both players' hands and on the field to
and
the
a
grave.
burn.
Inflict 300 points of damage to your opponent's life points for each card that is sent to the grave by this effect. If Obelisk didn't exist, this would be the most broken monster in Kaiba's deck by far. Its easy summoning conditions along with the stats on par of Blue Eyes would already give it second place, but along with this effect, by itself it would be a game ender. If Kaiba managed to get the card effect off against Yugi, there would be 4 outs in Yugi's deck against this card, which he would probably still get off through with the power of heart. There's not many 1-card outs against a 3k beater, so even by itself it guarantees a 2-turn kill. In fact, it's so broken that's also one of the few confirmed ban cards in the anime, which is weird considering Crash Card Virus also exists.
What? It's banned in the anime? The anime has a ban list? No way!
Spell Reproduction is a normal spell which lets you send 2 spell cards from your hand to the grave. Select 1 spell card from your grave and add it to your hand. This card's insane cost means that you're going to
send 2 spells from your hand to your grave. Then target 1 spell in your graveyard and add it to your hand. What? Why can't... I don't understand. Unless you really want to get Monster Reborn back. Isn't your 2 spells in your hand just better?
Go -2 just to retrieve 1 spell. Now what I will say is that if you're able to retrieve card of the Meiges, using it this way the card makes a bit more sense. Needing to send 2 spell cards from your hand is a pretty steep cost. It's also just a worse version of Magical Stone X.
Oh, they have ban lists in GX? That's when they talked about it. It's banned yet Yugi still used it? Oh, I mean, not in the first... Not when it was first used, obviously. Banned in TCG, that's different. Lots of things are banned in TCG. Pot of Greed is banned in TCG, yeah. Excavation, but worse. It's funny that they banned card in the anime to reflect its status. They brought it up in GX. I can imagine, because GX they had a school and it was like institutionalized. That means they had set rules and they could have set formats and they could cycle through ban lists, and that makes like that's like regulated, right? This stuff is like this first season stuff is like lawlessness. Whatever goes. Whatever Kaiba says usually goes, honestly. It's not war crimes the first time. Exactly. No, it has to go through war crimes. It must create your war crimes before it ever gets justified as getting banned.
Activation, which with Kaiba's resources and money, he should have been able to acquire. Dimension Fusion is a normal spell where you pay 2,000 life points. Both players special summon as many of the removed from play monsters as possible.
What? What? You could just get all your banished cards back? What? Oh my gosh.
Its name is a bit of an...
Okay, I get they don't really banish that much back then, but like nowadays, ooh.
misnomer.
Imagine dimension shifter into this.
Because it has no relation with fusion summoning. But onto the actual power of the card itself though, it's obviously broken. Potentially being able to special summon 5 monsters for a relatively easy cost is insanely good value. But again, like the other broken abusable cards in this deck, the deck doesn't really take advantage of it.
Yeah, I guess this deck doesn't really banish too much just in general. But like self-banish, imagine. That'd be so much. That's like a cheaper way to get all the Malice cards back. Bam. What cards aren't banned in either real life or show? There's a plenty of cards that are not banned in real life and show. Yummy for now is escaping the ban list, but soon. I don't know. This card is banned in TCG, OCG, and Master Duel. Well, duh. Nowadays, there's like 50 billion ways to banish things that you actually want banished. But back then, like, removing from play is pretty hard to do. And usually fairly permanent. Kaiba's just as bad as Yugi? Screw the rules? Well, yeah, he invented half of it, okay? He invented half of it.
There's very little cards in the deck that really banish monsters, with the exception of only 2 cards, Soul Release and Interdimensional Matter.
Yeah, see, he doesn't actually banish that much. Oh, wait, Soul Release combo Dimension Fusion would be so good. Wait. Target up to 5 cards in either graveyard and banish them. So you have to target your own monsters. Banish 5 of your graveyard. Which comboing? Can't you combo that with like maybe what is it? The guillotine looking one card? I don't know, the one that was like you throw your cards into the graveyard. Throw your cards into the graveyard, banish them, Dimension Fusion them back.
One of which doesn't even make sense to use with Dimension Fusion. Flat level 4 is a normal trap that you can only activate if a monster is destroyed by battle. Both players special summon 1 level 4 monster from their deck. Again, it's a solid card to help set up tribute summons, get Kaiser Seahorse for Blue Eye Summon, or even attempt to complete a Nixie's Fusion. Unfortunately, from the Grand Championship arc until the end of the anime, Kaiba isn't shown to use any new cards. But luckily, that's not all the decks that Kaiba uses.
Right.
As there's still 2 new movies that we saw
Yeah,
Kaiba do.
Dark Side of the Dimensions.
We for once have a full confirmed deck list.
I don't think I watched this movie, the first one.
As with the novelization of the movie, there also came a full 40 card deck list for Kaiba. There's a couple new interesting cards, but with the concrete deck list, we can also properly evaluate the ratios and see how cohesive the deck list works together is. Looking at—
Oh, is that how she gets her like little Valkyrie outfit? The really cute version of Dark Magician Girl.
The overall composition of the deck, it looks to be surprisingly solid. For starters, the deck size is 40, meaning that the number of good cards Kaiba can access is maximized. There's an even number of monsters to spells and traps, with there being 18 monsters and 22 spells and traps, which is also really key. Rather crucially, is something that Yugi's deck struggled quite a bit with. There's only 5 monsters that cannot be summoned without some setup, which is Blue Eyes, Rare Metal Dragon, and Paladin of White Dragon, and 12 normal summonable monsters. This is a
Megamorph not shown in deck list, but shown in the movie.
pretty stellar lineup, as you won't be bricking very often with unsummonable monsters and can actually play the game, especially if you compare it to Yugi's borderline unplayable Pyramid of Light.
Okay, but like Yugi's deck was always unplayable. I don't think any version of Yugi's deck was like always unplayable. He just manages to draw what he needs because he's the protagonist. Yugi was like never supposed to win if his deck was played with anyone else. Kaiba always had a fairly consistent deck, all things considered, even if he just cheesed out his Blue Eyes. Magician's Valkyria is a different monster from Magician Girl. Okay, yeah, but you know what I mean. She's like the cuter version of Magician Girl. different outfit. We just have to make different versions of her. They keep selling the waifu girls. It's a filler movie? It's not that good? You have to try to go to the movie multiple times to get the card? I just know there's a figure of her. There's a figure of the Valkyrie outfit version, the card version, which is pretty cute and very expensive. The Pharaoh spirit inside Yugi used the power of the puzzle those fused mammoth graveyard. Well, no, that was the first season. That was the Duelist Kingdom, right? Which, so, like, Duelist Kingdom doesn't count. Duelist Kingdom was a lawless land. A D&D land where whatever they say goes. But, like, generally speaking, the puzzle was a one-time cheat. Usually he has to be down on his luck and he needs his one card draw. And that's when his, like, Draw of Destiny activates at the end of the duel, when he gets exactly what he needs to win the duel. So technically he only really can activate like one time. Like not every single time really, but still. Like somehow he built his deck where he can draw his one of every single time that he needs his one of. That's why he only needs one of each card. Freaking what the heck is this deck? If it give you one card booster per ticket? Oh man. So are those cards like $500 each now or something? Because most people don't have them anymore, the collectors. The carries the title King of Games from the lawless first season. I guess that's true, but the show is called Yu-Gi-Oh! So he's forever the King of Games, it's fine.
Deck with 7 high tribute monsters makes this deck look a whole better in comparison. This isn't the only thing going for it though, as we have phenomenal draw power with Card of Demise and Pot of Greed, which means that Kaiba won't exactly be struggling.
Okay, yeah, Card of Demise was something I was talking about. It can throw things into the graveyard. That's when you want to use it, like throw things in its graveyard.
The actual monsters are all pretty powerful as well again, with high attack cards like Cluster Dragon, Force Raider and Spear Dragon, which itself does piercing, along with Blue Eyes contribute to the beatdown style of the deck, and with most cases a clash with
Blue Eyes
decks like
Beatdown!
on top.
I still play Blue Eyes
Beatdown
Beatdown
as well in the monster lineup, such as Rare Metal Dragon, Dice Feral Imp, Familiar Knight, and Pet in the Dark Clown. Rare Metal Dragon could be a pretty powerful card in the spam focused build, as it's 2400 beater and that cannot be normal summoned or set, so you'll need some setup for it. But within this deck there's only 4 total cards in the deck which can even summon this thing, so it's a pretty powerful card. Dice Feral Imp provides some recycling on flip, but given the lack of searching, sending back a single card isn't going to help very much. Familiar Knight lets each player special summon one level 4 from their hand, which can sort of help with a tribute summon, but in most cases you'd just rather have another copy of Luster Dragon to beat down an opponent with, rather than giving them a free special summon. And Pet in the Dark Clown lets you special summon another copy of itself whenever it's sent to the grave. Acting as the replacement for Sagi the Dark Clown, it's actually just much worse. For starters,
it's just worse.
The effect misses timing, which means that in some cases its revival effect won't even work. And the biggest reason for why it's awful, well, we'll get into that later. Overall, the monster lineup is pretty solid, even if it could be tightened up with other cards instead. But moving on to the Spell and Trap lineup, unfortunately many of the cards are a bit too situational. There are some clear standouts like the draw power, but of the 21 spells and traps, 10 are very situational or require setup, so many of these cards won't exactly be live. There's a couple new cards like Dark Core, Nobleman of Crossout, Meigi-mo-me-mo, Return from a Different Dimension, and Deck Destruction Virus. Dark Core lets you discard one card to banish one face-up card on the field. This card is pretty powerful given that Kaiba doesn't resort to too many monster removal cards, so this card can remove any problematic undestroyable ones. Nobleman of Crossout lets you target one monster face down on the field, destroy that target, and if you do, banish it. Then if it was a flip monster, each player reveals their deck and remove any card of the same name. Anti-flip
cards? That's like so situational. I guess there were a lot more flips back then. I guess the minefield that was flips needed an anti-flip card? What? And remove all of the flips of that name? That's... No more cyber jars! Take out all the cyber jars right now! Banish all your cyber jars. Okay.
Nobleman of Crossout is another piece of removal, albeit a bit weaker. For the nature of a beatdown deck, your opponent will frequently be putting monsters in face down defense position, meaning that this card isn't as dead as it seems on first glance. It also removes all monsters from your deck with the same name, but with how no one in the anime wants to run more than a single copy of a card, this part of effect is useless against.
Yeah, that's true. People only run one card in your entire deck and you manage to get to draw it every time.
Literally everyone. Megamorph is an equipped spell that you can equip to any monster, where if your life points are lower than your opponent's, the original attack of a monster equipped with this card is doubled, and if your life points are higher, the original attack is halved.
It's for both players? Oh. So you kill your own flip deck. I guess you would have to play a non-flip deck to kind of counter that? I don't know. Is it worth it? I guess it just kind of thins your deck if you didn't really intend to use it. If you didn't draw it and don't intend to use it that turn, whatever. But yeah, I guess he does cross things out. It's just Nobleman crosses out flip specifically. Semi-limited? Shadow's worst nightmare? Man-eater bug? It would mean you can't use your own man-eater bugs. But I guess if you didn't draw it and you weren't playing it, then it's fine to sacrifice. I mean, you know, like, sacrifice is like, you take the sacrifice with crossing out their ash, so even if you can't ash your next turn too. You can keep it if it's in your hand. Oh, deck only. Okay. Or you still just drop it and play it. 5-head. Gravekeeper Spy? No, I don't know any cards back then. I don't know OG cards. I only know stuff in the anime.
Megamorph is a crazy powerful card. Imagine a 6k blue eyes, or in the case you're winning, you can even use it to half the attack of an enemy monster. Definitely one of the better additions Kaiba made to the deck for the movie. Return from the different dimension is a trap where you pay half your life points. Special summon as many of your monsters as possible that have been removed
more
from
banished
play on
stuff
the side of the field. During the end phase, remove from play all monsters now special summoned by this effect. Not really going to dwell on it that much, given that it's just a slightly altered version of Dimension Fusion. Deck Destruction Virus is a trap that you can only activate when a Dark Fiend with 500 or less attack is destroyed by battle. Send 10 random cards from your opponent's deck to the grave. Despite having the virus namesake, it pales in comparison to the other cards. Sending 10 random cards from your opponent's deck, hoping you'll hit something good, isn't nearly enough to justify its existence in the deck, and there's a strong chance that this card will barely be an inconvenience at best for.
And also, it's so situational. With 500 or less attack is destroyed from battle specifically?
For the opponent. That being said, this by far isn't the worst thing about the card. As you see, it requires a Dark Fiend monster, which, if you take a look at the deck, there isn't a single Dark Fiend. Yeah, that's right. For some reason, the movie writers thought that Petin the Dark Clown was a Dark Fiend, despite it being a Dark Spellcaster, which means that not only Deck Destruction Virus can't be activated, but that Kaiba's also running 3 monsters that quite literally don't work in the deck. Oh,
dang.
And another thing. It seems like Kaiba didn't understand the rules of Yu-Gi-Oh! Or he cheated. It's honestly a toss-up at this point, given that he also activated that effect of Petin the Dark Clown when it was sent to the grave, despite the fact that it should have missed timing. But hey, who needs to follow the rules when you have money?
Exactly! Who cares about missed timings? I don't understand missed timings, my guy.
Interesting card definitely in the deck has to be the Eponymous card, and Kaiba's new blue eye.
I think they just couldn't play the virus because the virus would just win, and they're not smart enough to play around the virus.
Ice monster, Pyramid of Light, and Blue Eye Shining Dragon. To still keep with the 40 card number, Kaiba removed.
What? Pyramid of Light just removes all god cards from the field? All god cards in the field are removed from play? What?
Cloning an enemy controller for Pyramid of Light, and Blue Eye's Ultimate Shining Dragon, which is definitely an interesting choice given that both of these spells and traps are part of the lineup, that aren't incredibly situational.
Also, not gonna lie, is this the animation quality of the movie? It kind of sucks.
These 2 cards were received from Pegasus, where they were presented as god-killing cards, as at this point in the canon, Yugi had possession of all 3 gods. After the creation of the god cards, Pegasus became so fearful of the power of them that he decided to create a card that would be capable to stand toe-to-toe with the gods. The result of his fears became this monstrosity of a card, Blue Eye Shining Dragon.
Oh! Wait, he made this card up? I didn't know he still had the power in him. He's allowed to do that?
Level 10 Light Dragon monster, 3000 attack and 2500 defense.
Okay, stat-wise it's just a Blue Eyes, what?
Which can only be special summoned from your hand by offering 1 Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon on your...
What? Tribute of Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon? Gains 300 attack for each dragon monster in your graveyard. When a card effect is activated that targets it, you can negate it. One negate.
for
Oh.
this tribute. Increase the
Okay, I
attack
was
of
gonna
this card
say.
by 300 points for
Dang.
each dragon type monster in your grave. You can negate the effect of spell and trap monster cards that target this card. You can
So tributing Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, that's already four dragon monsters in your graveyard already. 300 attack per. So it becomes 1200 attack. That's still less than Ultimate Dragons though. Isn't that still less? Ultimate Dragon doesn't have 4,500. You would need at least like another few dragons in your graveyard to be worth it. I mean, the negate is pretty good. The negate is pretty good, but really? Oh, not once per turn? What? It negates every single card that targets it? But you can still beat it, no?
offer this card
What?
as tribute to destroy any cards you choose. So what exactly was Pegasus' plan with this card? Why did he design a card that could quite literally only be played by one single person on a planet as a way to defeat the gods? What was Pegasus' plan if Kaiba ended up getting all 3 god cards? Why not design a card that anyone can use instead of just Kaiba? Anyways,
Well, because Kaiba is the secret main character, actually. I mean, like, everyone in this world thought that Kaiba was the main character, but Yugi's actually the main
so
character.
if we look onto that card effect itself, there's just so much wrong with it. First off, it requires you to summon a monster that's barely ever going to see the field, and this card in your hand, making it a 5-card combo. Even if we ignore the completely asinine summoning conditions, the effect is just mediocre. At the very least, it should have 4200 attack points, which makes it a solid beater. And
I had to do math for
in
this!
a deck full of dragons, chances are by the time this monster comes out, its attack could get within the 5000 range. Its protection effect is also pretty good for the time, but when any form of destruction that doesn't target can destroy a card that requires this much setup, makes the protection effect seem that much more underwhelming.
But it still can be killed by Raigeki.
Finally, the destruction effect is also completely useless, because in the case that you'd ever want to use this effect, to sacrifice a monster that requires 5 specific cards to get out means that you are completely out of options. Even our Dramas out of all decks have an easier way to board one. I think the worst thing about this card though is exactly how Pegasus was intending to use this card to destroy the gods. If you want to create a card to be capable of destroying them, why give it the most insane summoning restriction? What use is a god killing card if you can't even summon it? Even as hard as it is to get the gods out, it only requires you to get any few tributes on the board to summon them.
That's so funny. This card is harder to tribute summon than the god cards.
With the summoning restrictions of this card, you'll be dead before you even can get this card out. Why not just make it a retrain of Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon in the extra deck, so it won't just be a card in your main deck, that will almost definitely be a dead card in 95%.
That's true, it should be
of your
extra
rules.
deck.
Why add a completely arbitrary restriction to make it a main deck monster? The actual way it was intended to kill the gods also made no sense. Slifer, Ra, and Obelisk all had achievable ways to run it over. Given that there's only 5 dragons other than the previously mentioned ones,
Yeah, all of them could get more than 4,200 probably.
that would mean that most likely the upper bounds for this card would be
have
5100 attack
effects.
if we assume that 3 extra dragons are in a grave. If Yugi had 6 cards in her hand, Slifer could run it over. If Obelisk contributed 2 other monsters, its attack could become infinite, or
Literally!
even just win the game at that point. Ra could gain attack of every monster attributed, and Yugi could sacrifice their life points to get to a very achievable attack of 5100. So looking at it from the battle perspective,
So basically, Pegasus is not good at this game. Pegasus is not good at making cards up. Who gave him this power? Who let him cook?
it's not exactly like Shining Dragon has a clear edge. But okay, what about its protection effect? To be fair to Pegasus' competency as a card designer, Slifer's attack reduction in the anime doesn't actually state if it targets or not, even if the real life counterpart does, so we'll assume that Shining Dragon can protect itself from this. But both Ra and Obelisk have a non-targeting
Yeah, they
ability,
literally have
which
non-target.
lets them destroy
Obelisk literally, like, just destroys it. Goodbye.
every monster the opponent controls, which obviously Shining Dragon is not protected by. And a final effect, which is the most egregious, as this was most likely what Pegasus had in plan to remove the gods, but unless Pegasus had hard programmed this card into letting it destroy any card, the gods are all unaffected by other card effects, so letting Shining Dragon pop itself to destroy the gods would have been equivalent of spraying a water gun into the sun, quite possibly a failure in almost every intended way. It might
But I guess Pegasus can't make a divine card, all things considered. Divine cards are only the god cards. I feel like the only card you can counter it with is making a 4th god
Might
card.
not be as useless as the other cards we have seen, but it's one of the most puzzling cards designed in the anime. That's not the only god-killing card that was introduced though, as Kaiba also received another card, which wasn't actually a card that Pegasus had made, but was planted by the main villain of the movie, Anubis. This card on the other hand is pretty simple and easy enough to
That is so funny. He sneaks into his vault and puts the card into his deck.
understand. Pyramid of Light is a continuous trap that lets you remove from play all god cards on the field. In this case, simple is better than being complex, because this
very
is by
nice and
far a
simple.
better card to use than Shining Dragon. It's as far as
Banish
you can
them all.
get for a card that is supposed to kill the gods. It removes them from the game, with no possible counterplay for the opponent. It ironically fit more of the deck than Blue Eyes Shining Dragon ever did, because Kaiba would have been able to use it alongside Dimension Fusion or Return from a Different Dimension, to summon the gods to win a duel against Yugi, and his plan would have actually worked if it wasn't for plot convenience. Overall, despite the deck list being given out, it isn't as clear or structured.
But why did everyone want Kaiba to win so bad in this movie? The god cards were just too powerful. They feared them. They were like, yes, we need the morally black CEO to save the world by defeating Yugi, King of Gods, who has 3 god cards and is like the nicest guy in the world holding on to such power.
As you would hope. The ratios are pretty good, and there are plenty of powerful monsters to be found in the deck, but what really hurts the deck is the number of inconsistencies it has, which prevents the deck from having any cohesive strategy. Petting the Dark Clown straight up just does not work at all with Deck Destruction Virus, which leads to 4 useless cards in the deck. Blue Eyes Shining Dragon is awful, and for some reason,
But what do you mean
enemy
Ultimate Blue
controller
Eyes
was
wasn't
removed for
made
it,
when
and
Shining
about
Dragon got
half of
leaked?
the spells and
Oh,
traps
in
are too
TCG.
situational. It clears Yugi's deck from the movie by far, even if it has downsides though. In Dark Side of Dimensions, which came more than a whole decade later, we get to
Dark
see a
Side of
massive power
Dimensions,
increase in certain
yeah!
cards. An important aspect to note about this deck is that it actually follows the manga timeline instead of the anime. So there are
Oh.
certain changes made from the anime to the movie. One of them is
Oh.
that Kaiba was never present during Yugi's final battle with Atem, which explains why he's so obsessed with beating Yugi in this movie. Given that the movie came out more than a decade later than the ending of the original manga, a lot of the deck has been updated to fit the times. We'll start with Assault Wyvern, a level 4 light dragon with 1800 attack and 1000 defense. When this card destroys an opponent's defense monster,
Like, see, look, Kaiba is just like one of the best characters, so all the anime should be focusing on him. He's literally so good. What else do you want to see? You want to see Yugi beat Kaiba, right? Okay, so this is based on the manga, so that makes a lot more sense. He was really good in this movie, but also he like cheated. Like, let's not forget, he literally just cheated. He just said his god card doesn't listen to your silly spells.
by battle, you contribute this card to special summon 1 dragon type monster from your hand. Assault Wyvern is a powerful card. It can be used as just a beater, and also forces your opponent to be placed into a hard spot, as if they
And
place
like
monsters
Yugi
in
had
defense
the
position,
fruit
it leads themselves to be
magicians
open
in
for a
this
potential Blue Eyes
movie.
summon. Blue Eyes are
They were just like a
alternative Light Dragon.
gimmicky
It's
card.
a level 8 Light Dragon with the same stats as Blue Eyes, and has the effect of being treated as Blue Eyes White Dragon on the field. It can only be special summoned from your hand if Blue Eyes White Dragon is in your hand. This is an awkward card, as on the one hand, it's as bricky as it can get for your monster. If you have no Blue Eyes White Dragons in your hand, you can't even summon it out, but in the cases you do, it's a free special summonable 3k beatstick. That also works as a Blue Eyes. It's still a pretty powerful card because of this, even if it can be potentially bricky. Deep Eyes White Dragon is a level 10 light dragon with
Deep
0
Eyes.
attack and defense with the following effect. When a level 8 or higher dragon type monster on the field is destroyed, you can special summon this card from your hand. This card's attack is equal to the attack of 1 dragon type
Oh.
monster in your grave. When this card is normal special summoned, inflict 600 damage to your
What?
opponent for each
And it's a
dragon
burn.
monster in each player's grave.
Each
When this
player's
card is
grave?
destroyed, destroy all monsters your opponent controls.
What?
Deep Eyes is a powerful addition to the deck.
Wait, what? It not only does it have a burn for graveyard, it also, if it's destroyed, destroy all monsters your opponent controls? What?
Is destroyed, destroy all monsters your opponent controls. Deep Eyes is a powerful addition to the deck, even if its summoning condition is a bit too specific, needing you to not only get a level 8 or higher monster on board, but also for it to be destroyed is hard enough to achieve, but at least it isn't gated to only being special summoned this way, so you can still use it like a normal Blue Eyes. Its effect is also pretty useful, in most scenarios giving you a monster with 3k attack, and its burn effect is also a neat addition. Its effect destruction effect also makes it a pain for the opponent to deal with without any monster removal with spells or traps. This next card is a retrain train of one of Kaiba's normal monsters, Kaiser Force Raider, which is a level 5 Dark Beast Warrior with 1900 attack and 1200 defense with the following effect. When you control no monsters, you can normal summon this card without tributing any. When this card destroys a monster by battle, this card gains 500 attack until the next standby phase. A monster that destroys this monster by battle loses 500 attack. Kaiser Seahorse is unfortunately a bit of a side grade in comparison to the original card, which is surprising given that the original is a vanilla monster. It's now a level 5 monster, which means that it's yet another tribute summonable monster, which the deck isn't exactly struggling with. The trade-off of this card being a level 5 monster was that when it destroys a monster by battle, it gains 500 attack, but as it isn't even permanent and only stays until the next standby phase, meaning that it can't even stack. And a debuff of 500 attack is also too underwhelming to even care about. Crystal Dragon is a level 6 light dragon with 2500 attack and 1000 defense with the following effect. Once per turn during your battle step, if this card battled this turn, you can add one level 8 dragon type monster from your deck to your hand. This card is undoubtedly powerful.
Oh my god, you just get
to search out
card draw
monsters in the deck, and is also only one.
This part when the animation was so good. The animation was so cool this movie.
This card, but rather a growing problem, which I'll cover later. Pandemic Dragon is a level 7 dark dragon with 2500 attack and 1000 defense, where once per turn you can pay life points in multiples of 100. Other face-up monsters on the field lose that much attack. Once per turn you can target one monster on the field with attack less than or equal to this card's, destroy it. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, all face-up monsters on the field lose 1000 attack. Pandemic Dragon is generally solid, but would have been much more suited to an easier monster to summon. Its effective debuffing isn't bad, as it can be used to continuously prevent an opponent from summoning weaker monsters and also allow for easier OTKs. Kaiba also acquires a completely new ritual monster, this time being Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon, a level 8 Dark Dragon ritual monster with 4000 attack and 0 defense. When it attacks a defense position monster, if its attack is higher than that monster's defense, inflict battle damage to your opponent equal to double the difference. The accompanying ritual spell is Chaos Form, where you can special summon any Chaos ritual
it's a little hard to summon, but you know,
monsters from your hand or field to
he's a cool boss monster.
Total levels are equal to that ritual monster. Alternatively, you can also ritual summon a Chaos monster if you control a Dark Magician or Blue Eyes White Dragon in your grave. Getting the levels required can be slightly awkward, as you'll need the exact levels, and with this deck, the only available options are by using the 4 Blue Eyes monsters, Lord of D, Assault Wyvern, or a Kaiser Force Raider with a Sagi to reach level 8. Thankfully, the second part of the ritual spell makes it incredibly easy to get out Chaos Max, which does save the consistency of the card quite a bit. Now of course, the card is also ritual, which still is inherently bricky in nature. It also doesn't have its TCG targeting protection, which means that this card in the movie is ultimately just a very, very big beater.
Whatever, he's a cool beater! Show my boy some love!
Good one at that, but nothing more than a beater, which is very prone to any sort of disruption. It can deal some immense amounts of damage, and even result in an OTK if the opponent controls any 0 defense position monsters, so it's not exactly fair to call it a bad card, just a bit bricky to fit into the deck. Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon is level 12 Light Fusion Dragon with 4500 attack and 3800 defense of 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons, and has the following effect. Once per duel, if you have Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon in your extra deck, this card can attack 3 times. If you use this effect, destroy this card at the end of the battle phase. While this card is in your grave, Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon you control cannot be targeted and is unaffected by the effects of
My go! I've never used him in battle, but I always pitch him in the graveyard, and he saved my butt many times because people always forget that I have his protection.
Your opponent's spells and traps and monsters. Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, similar to Chaos Max Dragon, is an overkill of a beater. Attacking 3 times,
throw him in the grave.
4500 attack.
Sorry, he lives there.
13,500 worth of damage in a turn.
He doesn't need to be a baiter.
To OTK your opponent in that turn. That being said, its effect is incredibly weirdly designed. It serves.
Say thank you so much for 13 months. Tier 1. Welcome back to the Word Cult. Yeah, the graveyard effect is just too good. So good. Really so good. The movie animations by Japan alone? I don't think... Did the US have any influence on the other ones? I thought they just like... They usually just change the card stuff.
100 attack means that you can deal 13,500 worth of damage in a turn and should be able to OTK your opponent in that turn. That being said, its effect is incredibly weirdly designed. It serves as a one and done card, which when you look at the amount of effort required to summon it and
no, we're not summoning it, we're pitching it. Get with the program. We are attaching it. Okay, we're attaching it to our blue eyes, and then we're using our blue eyes It's a tribute to something else, and it goes into the graveyard, and then it's just one protection.
The fact that it just disappears after one turn is pretty disappointing. Its protection effect is also pretty baffling. It requires the card to be in a grave, and only works on Blue Eye's Ultimate Dragon, which basically means not only do you need to summon Neo.
Okay, is that the anime thing? It can only protect Blue Ultimate Dragon because in the game it can work on any Blue Eyes.
Blue Eye's Ultimate Dragon in the first place, which itself is a Herculean task. You also need to somehow summon Blue Eye's Ultimate Dragon onto your field, which, you know, is kind of impossible when you've already used the Blue Eyes materials to summon Neo Blue Eyes. And if we look at what we know from the deck, there isn't even a way to get back your Blue Eyes not in a grave. So how exactly are you supposed to use the second effect? I mean, it's still objectively better card than the original Ultimate Dragon, even if it ultimately, no pun intended, has conflicting effects. Before we move on to the spells and traps, one funny thing I'd like to note is that through the power of sheer will and Kaiba screwing with the rules, he somehow manages to summon Obelisk through sheer force, despite the god cards having disappeared when Atan went into that. The implications of Kaiba being able to do this, put it simply, is quite ludicrous. And honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm not going to...
He's like, I'm not criticizing it. It's ridiculous, but it's Kaiba, so we let him do whatever he wants. It's like the best part of the movie where he's just like, I'm summoning Obelisk, and Obelisk is a god. It doesn't listen to your puny human magic.
To put Obelisk or count it as
does not elaborate in dips.
Maybe is a point for Kaiba being one of the best characters in Yu-Gi-Oh! The first of the spell lineup we'll go over is Dragon's Fighting Spirit, a quick play spell where one dragon type monster special summoned to your field during this turn can attack an additional time for each monster special summoned to your opponent's field during this turn. The movie still seems to struggle with extremely specific cards, as this is pretty much as niche as it can get. Not only does the monster you control need to be a dragon type that is special summoned this turn, it only gains attack based on the number of monsters that was special summoned to your opponent's field, which is kind of hard to do given that, you know, typically monsters are special summoned during your turn. Countergate is a normal trap when an opponent's monster with 1500 or more attacks directly, negate that attack, and if you do, draw one card. If the drawn card is a monster, you can normal summon it. In a deck filled with high level monsters, any card that can easily let you summon them out is nice.
But also, is this you like holding hands with Cypher? Like, what's going on here? What's being depicted here? Is this Kaiba locking hands? We're doing a handshake event with Cypher? Or maybe it's just another red dragon?
Unfortunately, it's heavily subject to variance and luck, given that you could just end up drawing a spell or trap. Dark Sacrifice is a normal trap, and that can be activated if your opponent activates a spell or trap card that would destroy a monster on field. Then send one level 3 or lower dark monster from your deck to the grave to negate that effect. Dark Sacrifice is again a mediocre card. Having protection from spells and traps for your vulnerable boss monster is pretty strong, but it needs you to send a specific card.
But it's always a level 3 or lower dark monster.
That doesn't work with the current playstyle of the deck. Saki the Dark Clown's previous inclusion in the deck fit, given that at least you could use it with one of the most broken cards in the game, but its justification in the deck is less useful if it's being used for Dark Sacrifice. Dragon's Orb is a normal trap, which if activated, prevents any effects of dragon type monsters this turn you control to be negated. Continuing a pattern of 2 niche cards, Dragon Orb can be useful in some cases, but with how rare effect negation is, you'd be better off just not running this card in the first place. High Speed Aria is a normal trap where you can send one normal spell from your hand to the grave. This card's effect becomes that normal spell card's effect when that card is activated. You cannot activate spell cards during your next turn. From the 3 spells we've seen Kaiba use, this card appears to be useless, and would have been a dead card if it wasn't for the fact that Yugi gave Kaiba a Monster Reborn, which was the only spell that would have worked here.
Yugi gave him a Monster Why didn't he have a Monster Reborn, man?
Even if Kaiba had more spells that could have worked in a deck that we haven't seen yet, most spells don't really serve any purpose on being activated during your opponent's turn. Induced Explosion is a normal trap which you activate when a card you control is destroyed by a spell effect. Target one card your opponent controls, destroy it. During either player's turn, except the turn this card was sent to the grave, when a card you control is destroyed by a spell effect, except during the damage step, you can banish this card from your grave and target one card your opponent controls.
What? This is so specific. Specifically, if your card is destroyed by a spell effect, not in the damage step.
Destroy it. Induced Explosion again
then it has a graveyard effect.
That Dark Sacrifice has. The situation that's needed to activate this card is too specific for it to work. And even then, the payoff is just a single popped card. Sure, the graveyard popping effect also is nice, but for that to work, you also need to get in a grave in the first place. And for the final card, we have Crystal Avatar is a continuous trap which you activate when an opponent's monster declares a direct attack. If its attack is greater
only
than or equal to your
2,000?
life points, special summon this
life
card
points.
in attack position as an effect monster that has attack equal to your life points. Then change the attack target to this card. If this card summoned this way is destroyed by battle, after damage calculation, inflict damage to your opponent equal to its attack. I feel like a broken record at this point, but this card's requirements are too strict. The opponent's monster will barely ever be at the point where the monster has more attack than your life points, and even if you do, the actual monster that gets summoned onto the field is pretty mediocre. The effects conflict with each other, as the lower your life points, the lower the attack of the summoned monster, and the lower the damage dealt to the opponent. Despite Dark Side of Dimensions coming out more than a decade later after the original anime ended, unfortunately, the power level isn't brought up. And even with Kaiba only being used in 2 duels, so many of his spells and traps are the most conditional I've seen, even in comparison to his anime cards.
Listen,
it's painfully
Ace
obvious
only
that
needs
cards
to
like
play this
Crystal
deck in
Avatar
the-
or Induced
in one
Explosion
movie.
were written for a cool moment for Kaiba to counter, rather than
Exactly.
being functionally good, which also isn't necessarily a bad thing.
He got
but
his
makes
cool
actual deck
moments.
rather awful. The use of Dimension Summoning in the movie also hurt the viability of his deck, as it allowed Kaiba to spam out high level monsters, but given that Kaiba was using the same exact deck he was using for the actual card game, means that he was running a deck full of unsummonable monsters. Sad to end Kaiba's decks on such a low note, but on the bright side, this movie is one of Kaiba's coolest portrayals, so it's not all doom and gloom. We've seen how well Kaiba's
The
deck
movie is
works
so
under a realistic
good.
scope, but what if I told you that even with Yugi being the better duelist than Kaiba, that Yugi's deck is much worse. So check
Yugi's
out this
is the
video on the
worst
right, where I go over
deck
Yugi's deck
ever.
and see what worked and what didn't work.
Did Zane's deck not make sense either? Whose decks even made sense?
Yugi has always
Okay. You know, that was a long video, but I made it much longer by commenting on every single card, so I'm sorry. I need to read the card to understand. I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh reader, I'm sorry.